Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, here with this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm going to show you how the stars are going to affect your life this week. In my videos, I use both Vedic and traditional Western techniques with tropical astrology, not sidereal astrology. I also use the traditional system of whole sign astrology for my analysis. You can use this video to the best of your advantage by listening to the introduction to understand what the week holds for you, and then going to the timestamps for your sun, moon, and rising sign to get a more personalized forecast for the week ahead. Astrology is not designed to scare you. It's designed to give you information so that you know what the good and the challenging energies in the week ahead will be, and you can therefore consciously work with them to the best of your advantage. Remember, knowledge is power. Now, there are scammers about, and so if you should receive a message from me on any platform requesting your money for a reading, know that it is a scam. Report them immediately. And now settle in and let's see what the astral skies have in store for the week ahead. Hello, my astro-loving friends. This week, what a treat. We are looking at what is going on in the skies between the 13th and the 17th of July, and there's one big event that's going to knock your socks off. Thanks for joining me. So a special treat this week is that we are going to be looking in depth at the fixed star Algol, and it's not as bad as you might think if you're familiar with the idea of Algol and what it represents astrologically. But first, let's talk a little bit about this week's major conjunction. There's not too much else happening this week, as I've kind of already alluded to, but you are certainly going to notice the major energy influence that is occurring on the 16th of July in Australasia and that part of the world, and the 15th of July in other parts of the world. On these dates in July, Mars is going to be conjuncting Uranus, and they happen to be making a conjunction at 26 degrees of tropical Taurus and 2 degrees of sidereal or visible Taurus. And this point is actually the point where the projected star Algol meets the ecliptic. We're going to talk more about that very, very shortly. But firstly, about the conjunction of Mars and Uranus. This occurs every 2 years. Now, those who follow astrology closely by now know that Mars and Uranus conjunct, it brings impactful events to the earth, and not least of which is things like volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. We've already been seeing Mount Etna erupting in Sicily this week, and potentially that may not be the least of it before this extremely symbolic transit is finished. Last time that Uranus and Mars connected in the sky, they conjuncted with the North Node. And this was on the 3rd of August 2022, when we had the, and I can't pronounce it properly, Fragedisfall volcano in Iceland erupt. So some of you might remember that this was when Mars and Uranus and the North Node all conjoined in the sky as well. Powerful, powerful times. Whenever these two get together, there's some sort of earth events. Now, of course, there are other astronomical and astrological alignments that can trigger earth events as well. This isn't the only one, but it's a pretty dependable one every 2 years that will cause something to happen. And as above, so below, it's the Hermetic principle that we apply here with astrology. As above, so below. What's the symbolism of Mars and Uranus and these wild earth events that we can actually apply to our lives in astrology? Well, basically it represents times in our lives when we receive some sort of surprise event, unexpected event, some sort of shock that occurs, for better or worse. This isn't necessarily an evil combination that's going to cause you great harm, but it can bring a shocking event into your life. These two planets, both Mars and Uranus, have to do with breaking out, breaking free, getting out of a rut, getting out of a stuck situation. So it's powerful for that sort of thing. It's a restless combination, and often combined with that, an energy for feeling agitated. Now, some of you in Australia, particularly in the southern states, like myself, get agitated at this time of year anyway because of the winter and the cabin fever and the lockdowns and the cold, and it's yucky. And this can add to that agitation level. Pardon me, Mars and Uranus conjunction. Mars and Uranus are both fast energies. Uranus isn't necessarily a fast-moving planet, but it does spin very quickly. And Mars is an energy that's associated with quickness and speed. And so these two combined bring an energy of fast change into our life, rapid change, the sort of things that happen that take us from one state of being to another state of being in the blink of an eye. 180-degree turns around. So for some of you, that can mean getting out of a rut, getting out of a stuck situation through something that happens, and in an instant, life is changed completely. It's a combination for experiencing erratic energy, either within you or in the people you're encountering around you. It's also an energy for feeling very forceful and very aggressive. Mars represents our willpower. And when these two combine, we actually get a hit of intensity that's actually more than we can control. We feel so aggressive, we're so fired up, so like explosive, this is the volcanic energy. And it's also an energy that's very spontaneous and rash and impulsive. Uranus and Mars both have connections to being rebellious, sticking it to the man and saying, screw you. And so we can get that kind of influence happening in our lives as well. This combination can bring about fights and accidents in our lives, personally, or we might observe fights or accidents occurring in the world. Bluntness and insensitivity are also hallmarks of this combination too. So it's not necessarily a bad combination, but it's pretty intense and it's pretty full on. It's not your peaceful, happy let's have a picnic in the sunshine kind of energy. It's pretty full on. Now Mars represents cutting. To cut something, it rules sharp implements. It has to do with surgeries and knives and anything that cuts things. Uranus is liberation. And so when we have these two combined, some of the symbology is to cut away anything that is keeping us from our liberation personally. So we remove unsuitable ambitions and unsuitable desires, and that makes space to replace them with more fresh and appropriate desires and ambitions. It's a highly ambitious combination, Mars conjunct Uranus, and it's not going to get rid of your ambition, but it will change the ambition or the desire or where you're heading in some very fast way, as I've already expressed. But Mars will cut it out completely, and Uranus wants to liberate you from what is holding you back. So in that sense, it's quite exciting and exhilarating, but scary sometimes as well. Sometimes we don't like to see our old dross removed, but it needs to happen. It needs to happen to move us forward. In fact, anything that doesn't allow us to live a life of liberation and purpose and meaning can go at this time, especially if you've got planets at 26 degrees of Taurus. Let me write this on the board. 26 degrees of Taurus. So if you've got planets there, you can expect that you're going to feel this even more strongly than other people with nothing there. It's a very stimulating energy. It's enlivening. It's invigorating. And if you're already in touch with what your heart truly wants, then it brings blessing. If you're living a life of authenticity and liberation, Mars isn't going to cut anything out of your life. Mars is going to stimulate what is working for you. Mars is going to enliven what is working for you and invigorate that. So there's some positivity here also. Our sex drive is often very strong with this energy as well. So you can expect that around the 15th or 16th of July, you're going to be wanting to get it on. The one warning that I would give you regarding this combination in a practical sense is, well, there's a couple of warnings. Be careful if you're having to handle guns or machinery, or if you have to drive anywhere, because this energy can make us more prone to accidents and things going a little bit askew. So if you're handling dangerous equipment, be very, very careful. If you're feeling that high level of agitation and irritation and explosiveness, we need to practice some kind of sports that allow us to regulate the flow of energy. That could be Tai Chi, it could be yoga, it could be karate. It's an energy of control over the body and how the energy is flowing through us. If you practice those things regularly, you're in a good position to move through this transit with a lot more ease. Now, most of us will also be under a lot more stress than usual, so don't forget to take some time out, take a rest, take it easy, walk in the sunshine, find your zen in whatever ways work for you to get some balance and peace back into your life. Try and mitigate the stress as much as you possibly can. Now we get to something very, very interesting. This conjunction is occurring at 26 degrees of Taurus, which is the degree, the projected degree, and I'm going to explain that shortly, the projected degree of Algol. So now we're combining all this energy of Mars and Uranus in the sign of Taurus with the most infamous star in tropical astrology, Algol. Now, Bernadette Brady, in her book Star and Planet Combinations, tells us that the name of Algol traditionally was Ras al Ghul. Ghul being the operative word. It was a name given by the Arabs, and it means the head of the demon. And they considered this star to be the demon wife of the devil in ancient Arabia. There's other names given to this star as well. In the Chinese, it means piled up corpses. In the book Star Names, Their Law and Meaning by Richard Hinckley Allen, he writes that the Hebrews knew Algol as Rosh Has-Satan, Satan's head. So the devil's head, and there's associations been made with Algol and Lilith, Adam's legendary first wife as well, that have a connection to Algol too. So there's been a lot of ancient writing about this star and legends about the demonic influence, shall we say, of Algol. And I want to sort of counteract that information, but I'll do that shortly. Let me first describe where Algol is. She sits in the head of the Medusa in the constellation of Perseus, and according to ancient writers, whenever Mars was in conjunction, like it will be on the 15th, 16th of July, whenever Mars was in a conjunction with Algol, it brought fearlessness into the heart of the people. So we're going to notice that in society. People are going to be more fearless, and when we're fearless, we say what we think more often. We assert our will more often. We show up in our power more often. I don't see this as a bad thing. I see this as a good thing. If you're feeling fearless, you're more likely to act in accordance with your higher self. You're not shunned or shamed or kept small with who you really are. You stride out in fearlessness. This is a combination, Mars with Algol, that makes for good showmen and people who can actually bluff their way through anything. Naturally, it can also make us very headstrong and very determined, and even at times a bit stubborn and unreasonable as well. We might be subject to sort of rash acts or even illegal acts, taking unnecessary chances, acting on the strength of our convictions, not a bad thing, but having complete disregard for public opinion. That's Mars with Algol, plus you've got Uranus in there that's all about that as well. And I think that's going to be one of the hallmarks of this transit. People are going to be like sticking it to the man and saying, I don't care what you say, government, I'm doing what I think anyway. And this could be, I think, perhaps rather healthy. We need a bit of an injection of this sometimes from now and then. And the minority opinion that is often comes up at these times is going to come out very loudly. It can also, when Mars is conjunct with Algol, be very difficult to avoid accidents and severe injuries. So once again, I mentioned, be very careful if you're handling machinery, vehicles, anything sharp objects. Fire is another Mars thing. Now, it's said that Algol is one of the most unfortunate, violent, and dangerous stars in the heavens. So given that reputation, the conjunction of Mars with Algol doesn't actually seem to be that bad. It's actually got quite a good side to it, allowing us to stand in our own willpower and be fearless. I think that's a good thing. We don't have any ancient writings about the conjunction of Uranus with Algol, but as we might expect, when these three combine, it's going to be quite wild. Hang on to your hats, my friends. Now, both Mars and Algol have themes of cutting. Mars, as I've said, real sharp implements and cutting. And of course, Algol, in the story of Medusa, it's all about the head being cut off. And so from an astrological perspective, with this combination, liberation is going to come through cutting something out of our lives. This is going to be the major theme of this conjunction. We need to also be careful not to lose our heads over a certain issue in our life and keep our bearings, so to speak. Now we're going to take some time now. I've got this special treat for you to learn some more about this amazing star and its mythology. And as I said, it's not as bad as many writers and astrological adherents might have you believe. There's so much more beauty to this star than you probably realize. And so I want to invite my husband, an amazing star myth expert, astrotheologian, David Warner Matheson, to join us now. So David, thank you for joining us to tell us all about the mysteries of Algol. Would you like to perhaps share a little bit about maybe perhaps your work and also the story of Algol with us?
Well, thanks so much, Kesenya. And my work involves star mythology. For the past 15 years, I have been exploring the connection between the myths and the stars, and the evidence that the ancient myths from around the world are speaking in a celestial language, that the different characters and events of the myths around the world are based on the stars and what that means for our lives. And so today we're exploring a very important example of that, a very significant lesson from the ancient myths in this story of Medusa. The story of Medusa is very well known, and it has some profound messages for our life.
It really does. And you've explored these extensively in some of your works. I think you'll talk about that shortly. But for those who haven't got some of David's books, they are brilliant. This one's Invoking the Ancient Gods in You, Myth and Trauma. So much research, so much work has gone into these fabulous books. Ancient Worldwide System, one here, and mythology, astrotheology, astronomy. These are your specialties. So I'm going to hand it over to you now, Dave, to share about Algol with us. And my audience, you're going to learn so much from understanding the story behind the star Algol. You're going to just learn so much to help you understand the energy of this particular point in the sky. So, Dave, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Kesenya. So I'll share my screen in a moment, but I'm going to be showing some evidence that this particular myth is based on the stars. And until we understand that it's based on the stars, we can't really unlock its true profound meaning for our lives. But when we do, it's astonishing. This happens to be one myth where the character in the myth, you may know that Medusa, the quest to bring back the head of Medusa is undertaken by a hero named Perseus. And Perseus happens to be one example in the myths where the constellation Perseus represents the hero Perseus. That isn't always the case in the myth, but in this case, the constellation that still goes by the name Perseus is the hero Perseus in this story. So let me share my screen and I will show your listeners, Kesenya, where this myth can be found in the sky and what it has to say to us. And I'll recount the myth itself as well. So let me share my screen and prepared here a little image of, this is a non-ancient statue. I believe this particular statue is from the 1800s, but it is depicting one artist's imagination of this story of Perseus and Medusa. Can you see the statue on the screen?
Yes.
Your listeners may know Medusa is one of the most well-known figures in Greek mythology. You may know that she was a beautiful woman who was transformed, and her signature feature of her beauty was her gorgeous hair, and that was transformed into a seething mass of venomous snakes. So she has snakes for hair, and you can see that in this particular statue and in others. It's actually one of the most common subjects artwork down through the centuries, and we'll see a few examples of that. But I'm going to recount the story first and then relate it to the stars and bring out some messages. So let's talk about who is this hero Perseus. He's a young warrior, a human, but he actually has a divine father. So let's see where he fits in. That's Perseus, obviously, in the statue, and that's Medusa. And he has been sent on this mission to bring back her head, and that's what's about to happen here in this dramatic scene in the statue. But let's go back to the ancestry of Perseus. His grandfather was named Acrisius, the king of Argos. Argos was a major power in the ancient Greek times. In fact, in the Iliad and the Odyssey, the Greeks are sometimes called the Argives, as in from the city-state of Argos. There was a few different names, and there were a few different city-states, but Argos was one of the biggest and most powerful of them, and that's why the Greeks in the Iliad are sometimes called the Argives. Well, this king Acrisius had no son, and he wanted to know, what's going to happen to my kingdom if I have no son? So he sent to the oracle at Delphi, or sometimes it's pronounced Delphi, the Delphic oracle, and he received back the message that if his daughter had a son, then his daughter's son would kill Acrisius and become the king in his place. And so Acrisius said, I don't really like that message from the oracle at Delphi. And his daughter, the beautiful Danae, it's pronounced different ways. You see different scholars tell you to pronounce it different ways. It does have these two dots over the E. So sometimes that means that E is pronounced as a separate vowel from the A. So Danae is one way that it's pronounced. But the beautiful Danae, she was the daughter of Acrisius of Argos, and she, had not been married at this time, but he got this message from Delphi. So he said, oh, I'm going to have to prevent this. So he locks her up in an underground chamber, hoping to keep her from ever having a child. But the god Zeus sees the beauty of Danae, and this underground chamber has some air vents in the top, and Zeus descends in a shower of gold in the myth and makes love to Danae in the underground chamber. And so the king sends his servants to take care of Danae, bringing her food every day. And the servants come back one day and say, King, you're not going to like this, but Danae is pregnant. And we don't know how it happened. And so Acrisius is not happy about this, but suspecting that, maybe it was a god that got his daughter pregnant. He doesn't want to anger Zeus. The priests tell him, it might be the child of Zeus. So he puts Danae and the infant in a wooden box and sets them out to sea. And this is a pattern we find in myth of a baby being put in the water around the world, but I won't digress
into that one.
But anyway, Danae and Perseus, so Perseus is her son, the infant Perseus, they float across the waves, and the gods make sure that nothing happens bad to Danae and Perseus, and they float to this island called Seriphos. And so I've put it up on the screen, Seriphos, the island of Seriphos, where a kindly fisherman, sometimes an old man maybe, and the myth has different variations, but this kindly old fisherman, one day he's pulling up his nets and he's trying to pull the nets in, and he's like, what is so heavy in my nets? And his name is Dictys or Dictys, and he brings in the nets, and lo and behold, when he opens the lid, out steps the beautiful Danae and the little infant Perseus, and the kindly fisherman raises Perseus and protects Danae, and everything seems to be going fine on this little island. Dictys has no idea that she's actually the daughter of a king of the powerful land of Argos. And little Perseus grows up into a strong young man. But the ruler of the island, the king of the island, Polydectes, in some versions, he's actually the older brother of Dictys. But in any case, Polydectes, the kind of evil king of this island, sees Danae and wants to make her his wife. But Perseus is this powerful warrior. He's the son of Zeus. So he's he's got a divine father, as often happens in myths around the world. But anyway, Perseus is in the way of Polydectes getting his will and taking Danae to be his wife. He's actually afraid of Perseus's power and strength as he grows into a young man. And he says, I got to get rid of this pesky Perseus somehow. So Polydectes announces he's going to have a marriage to, I forget the name of the woman, Hippodamia. A woman named Hippodamia. He's going to try and win her hand in marriage. And so he says to the young men of the island, hey, bring me wedding presents for my courtship of Hippodamia. And her very name has to do with horses. I want horses for this, to show your goodwill for my upcoming marriage. And all the young, wealthy dudes on the island bring him the finest horses they can. But Perseus, he's being raised in pretty poor circumstances. This kindly fisherman, and Perseus is embarrassed that he can't give a horse to the king. And he says to the king, king, I don't have the money to give you a horse. It's embarrassing. It wounds his ego, and he compensates by boasting and getting, he lets his emotions get the better of him. He says, look, I'll give you anything you want that I can give you, even the head of Medusa. He doesn't really know that much about Medusa, or he says the head of the Gorgon. And the king says, aha, that's just what I wanted you to say. Why don't you go bring me back the head of Medusa? That'll be a fitting wedding present for me. So Perseus heads off, confident in his strength to find Medusa. He doesn't even know where to look, really. And he has no idea what he's getting into, because Medusa has been transformed. Not only does she have venomous serpents for hair, but her skin is so scaly and strong that you can't cut through it with a normal blade. And her most deadly power, of course, is she can turn you to stone. If she looks at you, or if you look at her, you'll be turned to stone. And so many heroes have gone off to try and fight Medusa, but they all end up basically as crumbling statues on the beach of her lonely island. She's been exiled to this island, and we'll get into that in just a second. But now that I've laid out the characters, let me point out that he's going along, Perseus, searching here and there for how he's going to find his way to the island of Medusa, is visited by the gods. And he actually listens. It may be that we all have access to this, divine inspiration, but sometimes we don't listen. But Perseus is visited by the goddess Athena and the god Hermes, who the Romans know as Mercury. And I know you talk a lot about Mercury in astrology. Mercury is the messenger of the gods. And they say, Perseus, where are you going? And he says, I'm going to bring back the head of Medusa, just like I promised I would. And they say, you have no idea, do you, what you're getting into? You need some help. She's not an ordinary, quest here. This is not an easy mission that you've signed up for. You're going to need some divine gifts if you're going to be successful. And so one of the things that they give Perseus is the winged sandals of Hermes or Mercury. They're called the Talaria sandals. If you look up the word Talaria, even today, it's the winged sandals of Hermes. It's sometimes, different companies like to use that name Talaria even today. It means something fast or swift. With these sandals, Hermes could not only fly, but it fly as fast as the birds or fly as fast as thought. And they also give him a helmet. This artist has imagined it to be kind of this ornate helmet, but in some cases, it's the helmet of Pluto or the helmet of Hades, of invisibility. They also have to give him a special sword to be able to cut off her head. We'll talk about some of the other gifts, but the most important one, Athena gives Perseus her shield, and it's shined to a mirror polish so that it reflects just like a mirror, and he can use the shield to look at the shield and not look directly at Medusa. When he cuts off her head, this artist didn't quite do it correctly. He's supposed to be looking the other way. And you'll see that in a few other pieces of art. But you can see Medusa, she is a fearsome figure. And I know you're talking about Algol this week, but actually she's a very important figure. She's been exiled to this lonely island, but she was a very beautiful, very good-natured, gorgeous young woman with, a beautiful head of hair, and men came from all over to try and win her affection.
And wasn't she in the service of Athena in the temple of Athena? She was a priestess in some versions.
That's right. So the ancient myths actually have lots of different versions, but we know from the poet Ovid, who was a Roman poet and an early ancient source. There's lots of different surviving fragments of this tale, but Ovid tells us that the beautiful Medusa, was violated in the temple of Athena by, he says, the dark-haired god, meaning Poseidon. The god of the sea, Neptune, rapes Medusa. And Athena, it says, in order to punish this deed, or to to deal with this affront of the rape of Medusa in the temple of Athena, Athena turns Medusa into this horrible monster. And
seems very unfair, doesn't it?
That might not be what you were expecting, right?
No, it's always struck me, this story, as being incredibly unfair to the one who was maligned and suffering, that she would be punished. I guess Athena can't very readily punish her. Was Poseidon her brother or uncle?
Well, so she is the daughter of Zeus, and Poseidon is actually the older brother of Zeus. Or Hades and Poseidon and Zeus are three sons of Kronos or Saturn. And they're really the three most powerful. They after they become the first three Olympian gods, they divide up the realm, all the realms between them, and Zeus gets the realm of the sky, and Poseidon gets the realm of the sea, and Hades or Pluto gets the realm of the underworld and everything under the earth. But and Athena, she springs full grown from the head of Zeus. So you're right, technically Poseidon, she is a daughter of Zeus, and so Poseidon would be her
uncle.
Older, more powerful uncle. And but you see, the myths are not demonstrating to us what is fair. What they're demonstrating to us is what is actually our situation and condition.
What happens to us.
That's right. And so when Medusa is raped, what happens is she becomes an exile. She becomes a monster. She becomes toxic. She has venomous hair and a toxic gaze that turns others to stone. And she actually has to go live on a lonely island so far away that Perseus doesn't even know where to find her. And the gods say, in order to find out where she is, you're going to have to go to you're going to have to go through these different obstacles and asks the
Yes.
Gray sisters, and there's this whole long thing, but he finally does find where she is. I won't go, people can go read about it, but the
But it's
point is
very
she's in
similar for
exile.
people who are familiar with modern mythology, of Maleficent in the Maleficent stories, films played by Angelina Jolie. Same kind of thing. There's this symbology of getting violated, raped, or abused, and that turns her into this maleficent character, this evil type character. And I think so. You're saying this is the symbology that is being presented by this myth, that she's been violated and she becomes the monster within, you know, like whether she actually was living on another island or whatever. It's more that metaphorically she's been destroyed, like the beautiful young woman that she was is destroyed by this bitter, wounded soul.
That's right. And to go even further in some of those books that you mentioned, psychologically, when we have trauma or this, this violation, this is a depiction of an exile. There's a psychologist named Dr. Richard Schwartz who talks about our inner parts, especially our most innocent and childlike parts, will often bear that burden, that toxic burden for the team. Mm-hmm. We actually have, in invoking the ancient gods in you, we actually have multiple parts or multiple gods within.
This is David's book, all about this topic, exploring myths that describing this process of wounding of the soul.
And in astrology, you talk about our Mars part, or our Venus parts. We all have a Mars and we have a Venus, and we have, well, we may also have an exiled part like Medusa that is toxic, and the other parts of our personality have shunned and excluded that part because the trauma is so dangerous to them. It's so horrific that they want to isolate it. And so that exiled part is bearing this burden and is toxic. And anytime, and this actually leads to behaviors that are otherwise hard to understand when our protectors who are trying to keep that exile off the stage do something that when that trauma is triggered or threatens to come back to the fore, these other protectors will sail in and maybe will reach for drugs or alcohol, or will reach for will explode in fits of rage that are actually a little bit inexplicable to people around us. Like, how did you get so triggered? Like, what's the big deal? It's not.
Well, we become venomous.
That set you off. Yeah, that's right. The thing that set you off was that exile coming up with it. Something reminded you of that way that you felt, the way that you felt damaged. Okay, so I won't go into it too deeply here.
You can buy the book, everybody, and read the books. They're fantastic.
The point is that modern cutting edge healers and psychologists are talking, they're not talking in the language that I'm describing of Medusa, but Dr. Richard Schwartz has discovered this pattern that goes on inside of us, and he calls it internal family, the internal family, just like the gods and goddesses are a family. And I'm pointing out that the myth of Medusa is very much exhibiting the fact that the ancients, they're describing this exiling in this toxicity that modern cutting-edge healers are describing in a different language. The myths are portraying it for us, and we can learn something very powerful from this. So let me just continue with I'll just continue with the story. So here's an ancient vase. Can you see it? Can you see the whole vase there?
Yeah, I'm just going to move us off the screen, and then we'll be able to see the vase clearly.
I may need to move it off the thing.
There we
see
go.
it? Are you able to see it okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, perfect. So you can see that here we have Perseus. Obviously, he's wearing the winged sandals there, and he's looking away from Medusa. He's actually looking over to the goddess Athena. She's wearing her helmet, and she's carrying a spear. We know these are the marks of the goddess Athena. Perseus is wearing his helmet of invisibility, but he's looking away as he is going to cut off the head of Medusa. That's Medusa. What's striking to me about this vase is Medusa here does not have serpentine heads. You know, she's actually looks like a normal young woman. And it's actually suggesting that this whole thing is psychological. It's not that she really got toxic hair. It's psychological. But let me move on. I'll bring it up here a little bit bigger just so that people can see it. But I'll show you another one. This is showing from a different vase. Again, Perseus is looking away. Now he happens to be looking kind of towards Medusa, but he's
not looking at the head. So.
That's right. He's not looking at the head. He has cut off her head. Athena is there behind Medusa. She's got her helmet and spear. But notice the gods don't do it for Perseus. They give him the gifts that he needs to deal with this toxic, monstrous Medusa, but he still has to do it himself. They don't go slay Medusa for him. They give him gifts, and if he listens to divine inspiration and uses the gifts from heaven, then he can be successful in this seemingly impossible mission. But I just want to point out a couple of things. I didn't tell you the name of the sword that he is given is a hooked sword. It has a special name, the Harpe sword. This is important for the stars that I'm going to show you in a minute. But the hooked sword of Perseus, it's shown in different ancient artwork. And also there's this bag that he can put the toxic head of Medusa in. That bag, you can see it slung around his shoulder to where her head is almost on his hip. Can you see? It's like a satchel or sometimes it's described as a wallet, but it's like a leather purse or pouch. And its name in ancient Greek, it was called the kibisis bag. And he had to get that special bag because otherwise to put the toxic, dangerous, venomous snakes in, it would be, he couldn't even touch the bag. He would die. So he had to get this special bag. But it's important to see where the head is on his hip there, because now I'm going to show you some celestial interpretations. The Harpe sword, the kibisis bag, I'll just point that out to you. But before I go to the stars, I'll just finish up with a few more details of this story that are also very important as you're talking about Algol, to your listeners and explaining the importance of Algol. So Algol is associated with the head of Medusa. I think explain that Algol it's from Arabic Ras al-Ghul, the head of the demon or the ghoul. In fact, it's interesting. There's some ancient texts that describe the sounds of the Gorgons as being a, quote, ghoulish whistling. That's how it's translated into English, which is interesting. But notice when Perseus cuts off the head of Medusa, many people are familiar with this part of the story, but actually two figures leap out of the neck of Medusa when she's slain. This youth named Chrysaor, which basically means golden sword or golden one, and the winged horse Pegasus. And you can see them jumping out of the neck of Medusa on this ancient vase. It's fairly rare to find an ancient vase that shows this, but here you can see there she is with her wings. Her head has been cut off, and coming out of her neck on the left is Chrysaor as we look at it, and on the right is Pegasus. So focus in on Pegasus. Here's a more modern painting by an artist. I really like this artist's series on Perseus and Medusa. This artist's name is Edward Burne-Jones. He lived from 1833 to 1898, and he did a whole series of paintings. I'll show you another one in just a minute, but you can see he's even written in his painting Medusa,
Mm.
and then
Chrysaor and Pegasus. Yeah.
Chrysaor, there's Pegasus and Perseus. So you can see, you can also see the head of Medusa. He's holding it up just in front of Pegasus on the very far right edge of your screen, if you can see that. So it's important to note Pegasus coming out of the neck. You can even see like one hoof looks like it's still in the neck of Medusa. Well, why is that? We'll come to that in a moment, but let's just finish off the story. So Perseus flies home with the head of Medusa in the kibbutz's bag on his hip, and he's got his winged sandals, and as he's flying back to the island to give the head to the king, he sees chained to the rock the beautiful maiden named Andromeda. And here's an ancient painting from actually the 1st century AD or CE, which means somewhere between the year 1 and the year 99. That's the 1st century. So it's before 99 AD. So this is a Roman era. Andromeda had been chained to the rock because her parents, either her mother or her father, usually it's her mother, Cassiopeia, has bragged that her beautiful daughter Andromeda is more beautiful than the daughters of Poseidon, the god of the sea. She's a princess of Libya, I think, or it's either Libya or Ethiopia. I think it's Libya. And, you know, it's on the shores of the sea. And the queen is so proud of the beauty of Andromeda. And she is a beautiful mortal woman. But her mother insults Poseidon by saying that Andromeda is more beautiful than his daughters. And so Poseidon sends this sea monster called the Ketos, or it's Cetus is sometimes how we spell it today. And even our word cetacean, a whale, comes from the name of this monster. But you can see Perseus, as he's flying by, he sees Andromeda chained to the rock, and he says, wow, she's gorgeous. Why is she chained to the rock there? I'm going to fly down and see what's going on. And just at the time, as he's flying past, the Ketos, the sea monster sent by Poseidon, is coming up out of the water. See, the monster has been terrorizing the people of this kingdom and devouring them. And the king and queen are at a loss of how to stop the sea monster. And the priests tell the king and the queen, well, you know, the sea monster is not going to stop devouring your people until you chain Andromeda to the rock and let the sea monster devour her. And then Poseidon will be appeased, and you'll have your kingdom back. And they don't want to do that, but the sea monster keeps devouring their people. And so finally they chain Andromeda to the rock. So here comes the sea monster to devour Andromeda, and Perseus flies by. And what do you think is going to happen?
He's going to save her.
Yeah, he's going to rescue her. So the sea monster, you can see down in the bottom left, the ancient artist has shown the sea monster kind of with his head turned over. He's dead. The way that Perseus slays the sea monster is he holds up the head of Medusa, and the sea monster turns to stone. Here's another ancient painting. No, it's not a painting. It's actually a mosaic. This is from either the 1st or the 2nd centuries, also AD, but it's from the Roman times. You can see Perseus and Andromeda. You see she was chained to the rock. You see the chains up there?
Yeah.
And I just put this one up. I want to point out his hat, his headgear. That type of headgear is called, it's got a special name. It's a Phrygian cap. So I'll just put that up on the screen there. And this will help your listeners understand. Here's a more modern painting. I'd like to put this one up. This is Charles Napier Kennedy.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Look at this. This artist is a different artist from Edward Burne-Jones that I showed before, but 1852 to 1898, he only lived to be 45 or 46 years old. But I like this one because he's not even looking at the sea monster. He's looking at Andromeda. Yeah, he's so engrossed in Andromeda, but he's like, sea monster? What sea monster? I'll just hold his head down here. That'll take care of the sea monster. It's like, he's almost like, hey, Andromeda, how you doing? Sea monster?
Oh, is that how it's done?
He just holds up the this holds up so you can see Medusa's head looking at the sea monster. The sea monster is about to turn to stone, but Perseus isn't even too worried about it. He's mostly worried about Andromeda, but you can see the golden chain around her ankle there. She's chained to the rock, and look at how Perseus is standing in the water. I really like the,
It's beautiful.
the action in this one. But I also really like this one. Edward Burne-Jones, that's who we saw a little earlier, is doing a little bit more of a symbolic or psychological type of painting. But there's Andromeda chained to the rock, and here comes Perseus. He's got, if you look closely, the bag on his arm, the kibisis bag, but he's already slain the monster. There's a different one where, if you want to look up Edward Burne-Jones, you can see the whole series of paintings. But this is Perseus and Andromeda, and guess what? They're going to fall in love at first sight, and he's rescued her, and he goes to the king and queen and says, "Hey, I've slain the sea monster. I've rescued your daughter." And she says, "Hey, do you think I might be able to marry Perseus?" And her mom says, "I don't know. What do you think?" And her dad says, "I don't know, Perseus, what do you do for a living?" And I'm just kidding. Perseus, of course, is the grandson of the king of the Argives, so he's actually a great match for Andromeda, and they're going to get married. But first, Perseus flies back to the king who sent them on this mission, and he says, "Hey, king," and they're all celebrating this big marriage. You sent me off to find the head of Medusa. Well, here it is. And he holds it up, and the king and all the other guests are turned to stone. Oh, by the way, when he holds it up to slay the sea monster, he yells out to Andromeda, "Look the other way." That's important in the constellations. But let me go into now, where is this constellation in the night sky? And most people are never taught how to find the constellations, but I will now get into this. I'll finish up with the constellations that reveal a tremendous, just a truly amazing aspect to this story that, as far as I know, no one's ever written about this before. And you really need to understand the star connection to see this aspect of the story. But this is the constellation Perseus. You can see on your screen, it says Perseus. That outline is just terrible. Does that look like the hero that we were just looking at?
It looks
Any
like
of the
a
paintings?
stick figure that means nothing.
Like, try and remember that outline. You can't. Try and go find it out in the night sky. Well, you could probably come up with a random.
You could draw it on any set of stars.
It's really not helpful at all, but I'm going to show you a different way to outline it in a moment. But notice where Algol is. Can you see Algol on the? I'm going to circle it there for all of your viewers. There's Algol on the screen. This is the better outline. This is the outline of H.A. Ray. And I talk about why his outlines are so important. So I won't, in other places, I won't get into that. But in this outline, there's Algol again, same place. It's the second brightest star of the constellation Perseus. But let me outline it. Actually, the outline that I found online is not even as good as this is the outline of H.A. Ray. That's the way I like to outline it. But notice some aspects of this outline. He's got kind of a pointed hat. Remember how I told you that Perseus
had a hat?
He's associated with a specific type of hat, a Phrygian hat. And it comes from the constellation. But also, what kind of sword does he have? You have a harpe sword, this hooked sword. Can you see how Perseus has kind of a hooked looking sword? One hand is like in a hook shape. That's actually in the sky. In other words, the myth comes from the constellation. Most people are taught, oh yeah, the Greeks had these myths and Perseus was a myth. And then, so when they looked up in the sky, they found a constellation and they named it Perseus. No, it's the other way around. The myths are all based on the stars. But let me zoom out a little bit. This is from Stellarium, and I'll show you Perseus in Stellarium. There he is again. Can you see the outline?
Perfect. Yeah,
the hooked sword, the Phrygian cap, and I'm going to show the ecliptic path as well, because on this screen we can see the planets. This is planetarium stellarium, and we can see the conjunction that you're talking about in this video. So let me draw in where the well, there's Algol. Before I draw in the ecliptic, I'll show you. There's Algol again. I've circled it, and there's all the details about Algol. And Algol, as you pointed out, is a binary star. It's actually now thought to be a 3-star cluster. Almost every star in our sky, we've now discovered, is either a binary or a multiple of more than 2. It's either 2 stars orbiting one another or more. And that's why Algol will brighten and dim and change colors in the heavens, is because it's 2 stars orbiting one another. And when one of them, which is more of a gaseous cloud, gets in the way of the other one, it dims noticeably. And you can see, if you look very closely on all this data that you can get on Stellarium, next minimum will actually happen on the 16th of July, which is the
conjunction that we're talking about with Uranus and Mars on Algol. Now that's very interesting, because apparently from what I've read, every 3 days it goes through a cycle of darkening, brightening on a 3-day cycle. And it's been connected, and you might talk about this shortly and the reason why this might be mythologically. This in astrology has correspondence to Gorgon energy, like nasty ghoul energy of Algol, and Algol actually as a beneficial star. So she changes Algol as a star, and her influence in astrology changes depending on this cycle of the 2 binary companions and whether Algol is bright or dim. And in ancient times, when they were giving meanings to these stars or writing about the meanings to these stars, they noted the brightness was influential. So very, very fascinating that you mentioned that, Dave. But I'll let you carry on, because we want to learn all about Algol from a mythological and an astronomical perspective, which you're very kindly sharing with us.
Yeah, right. So thanks, Kesenya. So I'm just pointing out where Algol is on the outline of Perseus. And as we noted in some of that artwork, including ancient artwork, Perseus carries the head of Medusa in this satchel, this kibisis bag that rests on his hip, and that star, Algol, is on the hip of Perseus. And isn't that intriguing that it actually brightens and dims? We get brighter and dimmer, and the ancients, or they appear to have noticed that and known maybe that it was a binary. That's been suggested, but certainly they called it Algol, or the head of the ghoul, Ras Al Ghul, as you mentioned before, and they associated it with the head of Medusa. But let's find out more about the identity of Medusa in the stars, because that's really important. So let me go back to Perseus, and we'll just finish off by going through the star aspects, and then I'll tell you this amazing connection, and you can read more about it, like you said, in some of my books and other writings. But this is the ecliptic path. So I've drawn in the ecliptic path, and you can see, I'll go from left to right. The sun, that's actually in, the ecliptic path is the path of the sun, but also the moon and the planets go along the same path, roughly. There's Jupiter, there's Uranus, and as you point out, on the 15th. So this is a screenshot from the stellarium from the 15th of July. And Uranus and Mars, they're both right on top of each other. If you look closely on the screen, you can see both of their names are labeled in stellarium. That's exactly where they are. And then over here is the planet Saturn. So those are the the sun and the planets that you can see along the ecliptic.
Brilliant.
And I'll also draw in, for your viewers who are familiar with the zodiac, the background stars of the ecliptic are the zodiac. So that's Aquarius. Saturn is actually near the jug, the water vessel of Aquarius. Then there's Pisces, there's Aries, there's Taurus, and there is Gemini. So
Beautiful.
let's take the ecliptic out of the way so you can see where are Uranus and Mars in the sky relative to Perseus. Well, they're right.
That's right. And that's why we call it a projected star. It doesn't sit on the ecliptic, but it projects onto the ecliptic at that degree. So thank you. That makes it so abundantly clear.
Yeah, so there's Algol and there's the outline of Perseus. And now let me remove all those others. Now that we know where Perseus is and that Perseus is clearly associated with the constellation Perseus is clearly associated with the hero Perseus. There's a constellation. I'm actually going to zoom in for everybody so you can really see Perseus there. And right next to Perseus, there is the constellation in the sky that is known as Andromeda. That is Andromeda. In fact, you can see by her knee is a galaxy called the Andromeda Galaxy.
Yes, yes.
Right under the letter O. Yeah, that's it's actually visible in the sky. You can look at it with binoculars or a telescope, or if you've got really good vision, you might be able to see a little blur there by her knee, but it looks like she's falling over or even chained to a rock. H.A. Ray, this is the outline of H.A. Ray. You can see Perseus is reaching out to her, but she's like flinging her arms on either side, and there's like chains. You see how like her wrist, I pointed it out in some of the artwork. But what's really intriguing is, and I don't know of anyone else who's ever explained this, her head connects to a formation known as the Great Square. The Great Square, you can, if you know the constellation Pisces, it's on either side. It's actually encompassing the Great Square. But the Great Square's full name, it's not a constellation all by itself. It's part of a different constellation. It is the Great Square of Pegasus. So the Great Square has one of its stars basically coming out of the neck of Andromeda. And so you can see the Great Square is basically the wing of Pegasus. Can you see how it's a horse?
Yes.
The head is pointing up on our screen.
Yes, if we were to tilt it around to the left, it would be a flying horse. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
right. The Great Square is his wing. So his head is pointing upwards. His tail is pointing downwards. That's because north is to the top of the screen. Now in the southern hemisphere, I've seen Pegasus down here, with you out under the night sky. The north, the nose is pointing north. Well, down here in Australia, north is down to the horizon. So the nose of Pegasus points towards the horizon. Here it points towards the middle of the sky in the northern hemisphere. But that's Pegasus. But
so the Pegasus is coming out of the head or the neck of Andromeda. Now, in the story, that was different.
Well, so we all saw the imagery when Perseus cuts off the head of poor Medusa, the exiled, tortured, traumatized Medusa, carrying this toxic burden. She's been raped, and then that is in the myths, she's turned into a monster. It's depicting something for us. Like you said, that doesn't seem fair. Well, the myths aren't depicting what's fair. They're depicting what happens. She is in exile, carrying a toxic burden. When Perseus cuts off her head, Pegasus flies out. Well, then who is playing the role of Medusa in the sky? The constellation Andromeda. And then later on, Perseus goes and rescues Andromeda and marries her. In other words, his beautiful bride, Andromeda, is actually Medusa transformed. And that's why I love that picture of Edward Burne-Jones where he's coming around the rock. It's actually called the Rock of Destiny. That's what he titled his painting. But she's looking at him. He's looking at her. That's his, his soulmate or his his bride, but it's Medusa transformed. In other words, the myths are showing us that with the help of the inspiration of the gods and higher self, the goddess Athena helping him, you saw her in the artwork, the ancient artwork, not doing it for him, but inspiring him, he is able to take on this seemingly impossible task of facing even this toxic exile, his own toxic exile or her own, this is inside of us. We have these exiles that we're afraid of, or that other parts of our psyche are trying to keep down and keep off the stage, keep on that faraway island. But through the divine self, the higher self, those exiles can be freed of their toxic burdens and transformed into the most important member of our team, in this case Andromeda, our soulmate, our wife, our beloved. It transformed into something incredibly positive, in other words.
Yes, so, I love that. And to my mind, this is one of the greatest messages of this myth, that even when you've been traumatized and wounded and soul destroyed, you can change. And I would suggest that it was the love of Perseus that rescued her, that transformed her back into the beautiful whole person that she should have been.
That's so true, and that's so right. I mean, that's what the myths are depicting, that our exiled, toxic, burden-carrying parts that have been wounded can be transformed and uplifted. And that is a truth that the myths are portraying. This myth is so beautiful. And as you said, I just put the images up, but obviously I talk a lot about it in both of these two books. Myth and Trauma has Perseus holding the head of Medusa on the cover. And then in Invoking the Ancient Gods in You, I go into this whole dynamic in this interior landscape and the gods in you a lot more in Invoking the Ancient Gods in You. And I also, in this course called Recovering, you can find it on my website, Undying Stars. If you go to courses, one of my courses is called Recovering Our Deeper Self. And you can see I've used the image of Perseus and Andromeda in that course itself, because it's about this internal dynamic that the myths are describing and illustrating for us. So
that is just brilliant. We're gonna stop the share, or actually I'll get you to do that.
That's what I'm trying to do, right?
Yeah.
There we go.
David, thank you for enhancing our understanding of not only the story of Medusa, but the star Algol, because she, as a star, has been so maligned throughout the ages in astrology and astronomy, the ghoul, the devil star, the Satan star. And the truth is, I think exactly what you've pointed out through this myth. She's the wounded, toxic side of ourselves that needs healing. And as I mentioned earlier, when this binary system operates with a change every 3 days or so, it has been pointed out in astrology that one expression is the dark, ghoulish side of us, and the other expression, when she's at her brightest, is actually the more Andromeda-like, beautiful expression. So if you have Algol, my friends, strong in your chart, I would suggest jumping on Stellarium and finding the day you were born, and just through that information that Dave showed us, which you can bring up by clicking on Algol, the star in Stellarium, you'll get all that information down the side, and you'll be able to find whether she was at her minimum or her maximum, and therefore which expression of Algol you're carrying in your chart on the day you were born. The maximum is the bright Andromeda. The minimum is the Medusa energy. What a beautiful, amazing, mind-blowing story. And for those of us who have had worries about having Algol strong in our chart, rest assured transformation, healing, and resolution is available to you. And we're going to talk about that when we break down all signs of this amazing conjunction this week of Mars, Uranus, and Algol at 26 degrees of Taurus tropically and 2 degrees visually, sidereally in the sky. So, Dave, you have just opened up this whole world of understanding and knowledge of this wonderful old star. And I thank you for doing that and sharing with us.
My pleasure, Kesenya. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. And my friends, don't forget, check out Dave's books. They're on Amazon. They're on his websites. Check them out. Purchase your copy. Find out about all the amazing ways the myths express in our lives and through the stars. Thank you, David. Now, everybody, let's go to the all signs breakdown. So utterly fascinating, isn't it? The story of Medusa, Perseus, and therefore Algol in the head of Medusa and what she symbolizes to us here on Earth. And with that in mind, it's now time to look at how she's going to be playing out with this conjunction happening at this point for all signs. And of course, we're going to start with Taurus. If you are a Taurus rising, Taurus sun, or a Taurus moon person, this is the reading of Mars-Uranus conjunction with Algol. And this is happening on the 15th or the 16th of July, depending on where you are in the world. Okay, this for Taurus people is where you're going to be removing something out of your life, cutting it out of your life, but be careful not to lose your head. Allow the universe to transform you. Now, this could be a behavior or an attitude that you have had that's actually sabotaging you and holding you back. This conjunction is going to give you the capacity to now say goodbye to that self-sabotaging behavior, goodbye to that attitude that is actually blocking you from coming into your power. Very exciting. And it's going to give you the chance to break free, to get out of a rut with something very personal to you. And usually in the first house, it represents you, not what other people are doing to you or saying about you or how they're interacting with you. It's changing you. So there's a chance for you to break free. Like I said, some attitude, some behavior that you're breaking free from. There's also a breaking free from the way you're interacting with the world. Maybe, Taurus, your way of interacting with the world is one of shyness, and you've been so shy that you can't, stand up for yourself, and that's how you've interacted with the world. Well, along comes this conjunction, and it says you've got to break free from this way of interacting with society and the world. You've got to start standing up for yourself. Cut that out. Cut that behavior out of your life. So there's a breaking free from the shyness or whatever the trait might happen to be. Some of you Taurus people will be experiencing some sort of shock or surprise, and it can happen in any field of life. It could be career, home, family, but it'll be a change that is happening from within you, and that shocking realization or awareness that you suddenly step into will therefore change your dynamic with your career, with your home, with your family, whatever the area of change happens to be. The first house represents our purpose for living, the journey of the body through this lifetime. And so when we have a conjunction like this in the first house, it means liberation, breaking free, something surprising, something shocking to do with the journey of our body in this lifetime. Our body goes through, like we live in a house or we go to a particular workplace, we have certain friends, we have a certain family. The body is what is experiencing all of those dynamics. So when something like this happens in the first house, it can happen in any field of life, as I've said. But the change will be liberating, and the change will be fast change. This is also the realm of the chart that tells us about what motivates us. And with Mars so activated here through a conjunction with Uranus and Algol, what motivates us is perhaps a little bit of competition. We might find that there's somebody competing with us, and that puts a fire in our belly. We want to take it. We're not going to let them win. We're going to take them on. We're going to prove them wrong at their game. Just don't lose your head, Algol. Try and keep yourself a little bit balanced and grounded, and take that competition on, of course, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater by your behavior if someone is getting competitive with you. Don't get aggressive. Don't get erratic and sort of eruptive is the word I'm after, with them if you can. There is this energy of feeling forceful and aggressive. Most of you Taurus people are going to experience that quite extensively. So again, knowledge is power. If you know, oh, this is coming from the conjunction of Uranus and Algol, I'm not going to beat myself up about my aggressive behavior. I will apologize where it's appropriate, and I'll try to be polite where I can. But I know where it's coming from. I can forgive myself for my aggressiveness or my forcefulness or whatever, even though I know I don't want to behave like that consciously. So we might have these feelings within us. You'll know where they're coming from at this time. There might be some fights. There might be some sort of mishap or like competitive interaction, blunt, insensitive interactions that occur. I will just say, Taurus, it's not your usual style, but this combination of energies is telling me that it's likely to be triggered by you. You'll start the fight, or you'll say that blunt, rude thing, or be a bit insensitive, mightn't even realize that you're being so, and that can sort of stir the pot, so to speak, make other people in your life angry, but it's coming from you. This is happening in the house of you. You're going to be wanting to initiate things. The first house is how we initiate things in our life. And you're going to be on the front foot. You're going to be the assertive one. You're going to be the one to initiate something in a surprising, sudden, unexpected kind of way. First house energy is to initiate, and all this erratic sort of volcanic kind of energy. You're going to start something all of a sudden. You might even take a royal leap, flying leap, without even considering all the options and all the obstacles, and you just jump right in without even thinking about things. That's the way you might be initiating new beginnings in your life. It's not always the best approach. Sometimes we need to weigh things up and debate things within ourselves, or go and get some advice from someone. So, I just mention that so you're conscious and aware. If it's something exciting and you don't want to miss out and you've got to jump straight away, go for it under this energy. But if not, heavy, big decisions that we make in our lives often are benefited by getting some opinion and advice from someone else and then following your heart in the end. So, there will be some initiation of something new that you will undertake in a fast, speedy, and even surprising to yourself kind of way. There can be some physical effects. Sometimes Taurus people with this conjunction might cut themselves. Now that can be on purpose. For example, you cut your toenails, don't you? And your fingernails. Cut your hair. That can be happening, like literally. Sometimes though, it could be in a way that's a bit surprising. You're out there using the shovel in the backyard and you nick the side of your little toe and it's like, damn it, things like that, where there's a cut and it's unexpected and it's a shock and it's an accident. There can be physical effects like that. You might nick yourself shaving or something along those lines. Okay, so be very, very careful, as I said, with sharp implements, Taurus. And finally, the first house has to do with the first impressions that we give. If you're going to be meeting somebody new under this energy around the 15th or 16th, they're going to see you as somebody who is perhaps very heightened in energy, like a bit erratic, a bit headstrong. Whether you're usually that way or not doesn't even matter, but there is this energy of Mars conjunct Uranus that will be predominant on those days. They might see you as someone rash and impulsive. They might see you as a real rebel. They might see you as somebody who is a bit explosive. Whether you actually really are that way or not, this is the perception that might arise. This energy is going to be connected to how people perceive you around the 15th and the 16th. So I hope that helps you navigate the week ahead, my beautiful Taurus friends. Moving right along, we're going to move to Gemini. Gemini rising, Gemini sun, and Gemini moon people. Well, this is taking place in your 12th house, Gemini, the conjunction of the star Algol with Mars and Uranus. And so it's in 12th house areas that you will be breaking free, getting out of a rut, changing your life in some way. Now, what is this in the 12th house? The 12th house is what's behind us. This is the first house of you, Gemini. 12th house sits behind you. And therefore, something from the past is going to be changed. Something from the past is going to be cut out of your life and removed. Remember, Mars is to cut, and Algol has that symbology of having the head cut off. Also, we talked about Algol having the capacity to transform us. And so there is something from the past that is being transformed in you now, healed even in you now. It's quite a powerful combination. Some of you might be saying goodbye to old family patterns, or might be saying goodbye, letting go of some feelings that you might have had, or some of you might even be saying goodbye to some past life karma, and it's suddenly, you've been dealing with karmic repercussions in your life for maybe months, weeks, years, and all of a sudden that's over. It's finished. It's done. Maybe for some of you, for example, there might have been ongoing divorce payments or something like that. And then all of a sudden, something happens in your life and those divorce payments come to an end. This is to cut something from the past, a divorce and repayments and alimony and that sort of thing. That can occur, Gemini. This is the kind of thing we meet. If you've got anything hanging over your head from the past, this is actually a great energy for letting it go and ending it, cutting it out of your life. What is it that's causing you trouble and hanging over your head and making you feel frustrated? Energy of Mars, Uranus is the frustration. Well, here with Algol, it can disappear and be cut out of your life as the universe transforms you from feeling frustrated and irritated and explosive about a certain issue and takes you into that beautiful Andromedan energy of life is beautiful, life is good. I'm excited for you, Gemini. This is actually a fabulous placement to be having this, especially at the same time as you've got Jupiter transiting the first house. Go, you good thing. Now, as I said, this is about breaking free with sort of a fast change. Now, this is the house in the horoscope that has to do with karma and moksha. You might be breaking free from some karma from a past life that you don't even know about. And this can include the dissolving, perhaps, or breaking free of some material limitations in your life. That can also be what we're seeing here. The 12th house has to do with our angels and guides as well. They might be pulling the strings to help you break free, get out of a rut. And it can happen very quickly and very, very fast. You might have trouble sleeping, Gemini, under this energy, because this is the house of sleep, and this is a very restless energy, this combination that we're looking at here. So, feeling erratic, having erratic dreams, not being able to sleep, having dreams about cutting and injuries and that sort of thing, that would not be surprising under this energy as well. Yes, as I said, not being able to sleep. This is also the house of bedroom pleasures, and this is quite a kinky left of center energy. Uranus likes things that are very alternative. Mars is the bedroom, and this is a very sexualized combination in the house of bedroom pleasures, but it's likely to be very kinky sex, erratic bedroom pleasures, even worst case scenario, some forceful or aggressive type bedroom pleasures. Sometimes you might get off on that. This is an energy where just be careful, because remember, as I said in the introduction, this is also a combination for accidents, fights. So one of you, your partner wants to do a certain thing and you're like, no way, I'm not doing that. And you get into a fight about it, which, totally ruins the mood. But this is a house of bedroom pleasures. So remember, one and all, keep it pleasurable for everyone. No matter, what you're feeling, the impulse of inside, everybody has to enjoy, don't they? Enough of that topic. Let's move along. But here in the house of secret enemies, hidden enemies, persecution. This is a wonderful energy for cutting secret hidden enemies out of your life. You may not even be aware that it's happening. Somebody's competitive with you and you don't even realize it, and all of a sudden they're not even a competitor anymore. Self-sacrifice is seen through the 12th house as well. This can come to an end too. There's an ending, a transformation even of perhaps a theme in your life or an area of your life where you have been sacrificing for someone else. Maybe you're giving up, your freedom to raise your children, and you're doing that really, like we all as parents do, that hugely self-sacrificial thing of raising children, and maybe for some of you this is symbolic of a time when that child raising period of your life is coming to an end. No more self-sacrifice, no more martyrdom for the sake of raising your children in a certain community or area or that sort of thing. So there can be, I'm not saying that's the only way, but there's many ways that we sacrifice our own freedom This is an energy of liberating you to be able to live your freedom as you choose. Uranus energy with Mars, with Algol. So I find that it is actually going to be very powerful. If you have been in a place of martyrdom or sacrificing yourself for somebody else, it can end now and you can be set free now. Very exciting, very powerful. Finally, the 12th house has to do with holidays and retreats. And of course, you know, this might be really good energy to be having some acupuncture. Mars rules needles in a holiday environment or a retreat space or something. If you don't usually get acupuncture, it might be a good time to think about doing that. But if you are on holidays, especially somewhere far away or overseas, be very careful. Very careful, because as we know, this is an energy of accidents. It can also represent earth events. So I'm not meaning to scare anyone, but just operate with caution. You know, you're about to cross the road in a country where they drive on the opposite side to you. Double check, is there anything coming before you step out on that road? That's all that I'm asking for here for our Gemini people, is to just to be sure. Don't be rash, don't be impulsive. Take time to assess everything, lest you get into trouble if you're on a holiday in a faraway place and something goes wrong. So thank you, my beautiful Gemini friends. Cancer, Cancer rising, Cancer sun, Cancer moon people. The energy of Mars conjunct Uranus is happening for you in the 11th house. Okay, my friends, the 11th house is the house of where we can be profitable and gainful in life, where we make wealth from our contribution to the world, be that through a career or something else. And so here, if there's been, something you've been doing in an attempt to be profitable, in an attempt to be gainful, you know, striving after a dream or a goal, and it's not working out for you, this energy is going to help you cut that out of your life so that you make space for something new and something wonderful. In fact, it could even be an energy where the universe is about to transform your goals and dreams. You know, you didn't realize it, but maybe your goals and dreams were monstrous. Hello, Algol. And along comes this energy, and that monstrous, dream that would have harmed, or, you mightn't have even realized it, might have had a terrible impact on many, many people's lives, is now transformed into something more noble, more authentic, more real, more true, and very Uranian, aligned with the greater good for humanity. It's one explanation for how this might work. Of course, there are many ways that this energy can play out. This is the house of our life's desires and wishes and ambitions. Many of you Cancer people are likely to see something surprising happen with regard to your dreams and your goals and your ambitions. Something out of the box, something that breaks you out of a rut. If you've been striving after a dream or a goal for eons, nothing's happening, you feel agitated, you feel restless. Here comes this energy that says, time to make a change. It's going to get you out of a rut and you're not going to know what's coming. Surprises, shocks. And it could be that a friend gets in touch with you because it's a house of friendship, or somebody from your network or your connections gets in touch with you about a certain issue in your life, and they want to back you. Let's say, I'm going to support you in achieving your dream, your goal. I'm going to give you some funding, and I want to be one of your backers. And you're like, what? Didn't see that coming. That's out of the blue. Break free from a stuck situation with a dream or a goal or ambition because a friend, house of friends, gets in there and backs you and supports you. So that's one example. As you know, many ways that could express, but I love this. This is removing unsuitable ambitions and any unsuitable desires so that you can replace them with fresh desires and appropriate desires. Removing anything that does not allow for your liberation going forward into the future. The 11th house is a future-oriented sign. And so, if you're doing something in your life and it's not for your greater good, going forward, it's likely to be cut out now of your life. It's likely to be removed. So there can be some fast change. There can be some fast changes with friends. You might be cutting friends out of your life who just drag you down, who are not healthy for you, who maybe are aggressive friends or forceful friends or, rebellious, explosive kind of friendships. And you're like, I just don't need that in my life anymore. Gonna cut it out, this energy. There can even be some fights with friends, you know. So if that happens, if a friend is blunt or insensitive, that's just the nature of this combination. You might like to sit with it for a week or two and see where you're at in a week or two with the friendship before you completely cut it out. But this energy can make friends more erratic and explosive in your life. Also, if you're a younger sibling and you have an older sibling, the sibling immediately older from you is seen from this realm too, and therefore they can be acting in this way as well. Rash, impulsive, rebellious, explosive, all those words we've been talking about. This isn't an upachaya house, so it does indicate that things will get better as time goes on. So the relationship with the friend, if you choose not to cut it out of your life, can improve with time, or with the sibling can improve with time. This is also an energy that tells us how we need to behave to increase our networks and to effectively network. And this combination can see you perhaps asserting yourself more, or initiating some sort of action more that allows you to grow your network. So, you know, you approach somebody at a party and get talking to them and give them your business card and so on. You're the one taking action. Mars is to take action. Mars is to be on the front foot and get there first. So you're the one making connections and expanding your networks in some way. Often this combination represents the kind of people that we want to hang out with as well. And for you Cancer people, you might find that there's just a lot more boisterous, sort of loud people in your life, maybe alternative thinkers, people who are, you know, very into protesting, those sorts of left of center people, but good-hearted people, I feel too, that come into your life under this energy. This is also the house of our stepchildren and our children-in-law. So there could be some volatility, I should get my words right, with stepchildren or children-in-law. There might be, you know, a bit of argy-bargy, some fights, some disagreements, you know, sort of erratic energy between you and stepchildren or children-in-law as well. The children-in-law might be being more forceful, more aggressive. They might have more intensity than we can control. If you know that, if you see that happening, you know exactly where it's coming from. Hello, Mars-Uranus conjunct with Algol. Some of you might be being, you know, there might be a bit of bluntness between you and stepchildren or children-in-law. Try to control your energy as the adult in the situation as much as you possibly can, the wiser older person. I just encourage you, you know, try and operate like water off a duck's back if they're getting a bit cranky at you, and remind yourself it's just the energy, it's not the people. You know, they're being influenced by Mars-Uranus conjunction with Algol. I'm just going to let it flow past me and not ruin the dynamic of our relationship. Try not to take things too personally. Cancer, hard for you to do. You're such a emotionally sensitive person, and that's a beautiful attribute of Cancer people. But try to recognize its energy and try not to take things too personally. Finally, Cancer, this is you guys have the greatest strength to be able to influence political parties, organizations, and groups at this time. This is a very rebellious energy. It's, like I've said, sticking it to the man, and this is taking place in the house of political parties. So it's a good time, Cancer, if you felt upset about something and like something's being neglected in your community or your society, it's a good time to write to your politician or your federal member and explain what you're thinking. It's a good time to take a stand. It's also a good time to perhaps protest. You know, get your banner out, get your flag waving, and get down the street and march in protest against something. This is a fabulous energy for that. So we're all counting on you this week, Cancer, to be on the front foot with some kind of political activism that might need to be taken. So that's what I'm seeing for our Cancer strong people. Now, if you happen to be a Leo rising, sun or moon person, this is taking place in the 10th house, and this is where you might be experiencing, Leo, and by this I mean the conjunction of Mars, Uranus and Algol at 26 degrees of Taurus on the 15th or 16th of July, depending where you are in the world. This is going to get you out of a rut with a career situation. If you've been feeling bored, restless, frustrated or agitated with a career circumstance, Well, Leo, this could be your lucky week where something happens, something surprising, you didn't see it coming, something shocking, gets you out of a rut. And it's a fast change. Now, that could go a number of ways. Use your imagination. You might get to work and your boss comes in and sees you and says, I know all about what you've been doing behind everybody's back at work. You're out of here. Pack up your gear and leave. You know, it could look like that, or it could be something positive. The boss comes in and says, you know what? Such and such told me that you have been, staying behind for a couple of hours every day doing all this extra work that's gotten us over the line with this particular project. I want to reward you for that. There's a position coming up, a team leader position or whatever it is. I want you to go for it. You've got my backing. I want you in that role. I know you can do the work. It could be something as surprising as that. These things aren't necessarily good or bad. Could go either way. Remember, there's shadow and light in every energy. But the change will be fast, the change will be sudden, and it's going to get you out of a rut or a stuck situation in life. Now, this is also the realm of the chart that has to do with bosses, leaders, and government authorities. And you might notice that in your life, particularly, they are being rash and impulsive and explosive, rather than cool, calm, collected, and helpful, as we might otherwise want those people to be in life. So that you might have a bit of head, clashing with an authority figure this week, Leo. There might be some words flying around, some bluntness, some insensitivity. Try to roll with it, and remember, this is the energy. You don't have to give in and make things worse. Try and keep your cool. Remember, it's with Algol. Don't lose your head if that's what happens. Instead, allow the universe to transform you and turn something that was ghoulish and ugly into something beautiful. Maybe a difficult work situation or a difficult relationship with a boss can be transformed in some way into something beautiful. Maybe a boss has reached the end of the line with something. They're frustrated, they're angry, they lose their cool, and they decide, they lose their cool with you and you're feeling terrible, but the next thing you know, they've chucked in their job, they've left, and the whole situation's changed because that hideous boss is going to leave now. So things aren't always what they appear on the initial impressions. Allow the universe to transform you, or allow the universe to transform the situation regarding work or bosses and so forth under this energy. It's also the realm of our father in Western astrology, and it's the house of the wealth of the father in Eastern astrology. So either way, there's could be something shocking or something surprising that happens in the life of the father or with the resources of the father. I'm a Leo sun. I'm going to need to be very cautious and careful, I guess, about this. My poor dad has been having terrible health issues over the last week or two, and this doesn't bode well for that energy. So I, need to be in regular contact with my dad, supporting my dad, being there for my dad as much as I can, because you just don't know what this might bring. Remember, Mars is to cut, could indicate that a father might require surgery. Certainly my dad has been had surgery in the past week or so as well. So, this can be one way that this unfolds. A father figure even, doesn't even have to be your actual father. It could be someone who is like a father to you, might require some sort of surgery. Some of you might even be cutting your father out of your life. Maybe they've pushed your buttons just one too many times and you're like, that's it. I'm removing you, cutting you off, getting you out of my life, Dad, because I'm sick of it. So that can be another way that can manifest. Some of you might find that your father is cutting you out of his inheritance. This is the wealth of the father, as I said, from the second house from the ninth here. Some of you might be losing your inheritance, remember Medusa lost her head and Mars is to cut. Some of you might be losing an inheritance from a father figure as well. Okay, forewarned, forearmed. Not everything is wonderful, but neither is everything bad as well. You might notice that a father or a father figure perhaps is being a bit agitated or restless, erratic in his behavior, impulsive or explosive, and he's not usually. It's this energy. Let's be compassionate, let's be forgiving if that's the case. There's more intensity than we can control when this combination occurs. This is also the 10th house has to do with what we need to do to be successful at life. And when we've got this combination forming in our 10th house, we need to be on the front foot. We need to initiate, we need to take action to create more liberation for ourselves, whatever that might look like in your personal life. So I encourage you, if you need to make changes, if you need to cut things out of your life, if you need to take action, then this is a great time to do it under this energy. So that's what I'm seeing for our lovely Leo friends. What about our beautiful Virgo rising, sun or moon people? The energy of Mars-Uranus conjunction with Algol is occurring in the 9th house. And this is a beautiful house in the horoscope. This is a very interesting energy to be taking place here. You might get some surprising offer of a chance to travel or a chance to do some higher study of some sort. This energy is going to, on the 15th or 16th of July, depending where you are in the world, is going to form in the house of higher knowledge. You might get a scholarship come your way. Or you might decide, you know, I've had enough with this university course. It's not what I thought it would be. I feel like I'm going nowhere. I'm cutting it out of my life. Either way, this is the energy we're talking about. Something shocking, something surprising that gets us out of a rut, or something that we cut out of our lives. I mentioned travel a moment ago. This is the realm of the chart that has to do with expanding our heart and our soul and our mind and even our bodily experiences through travel and exploration of the world around us. And here there might be a sudden opportunity for you to do that, and that gets you out of a rut. That's a sudden, shocking, surprising eventuality that you didn't see coming. Maybe you win a trip somewhere, or somebody offers you the chance to travel with them and you didn't ever imagine you'd be able to do that, and there could be some blessing regarding that. Equally, you might have thought that you were going to travel to a certain place, and then you realize, oh my gosh, you know, there's this issue and that issue and this going on at home. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. So you cut out that opportunity from your life and you choose not to travel. So it can go either way, but I'm just telling you that about the energies and how they can express one way or another. But there's likely to be some change in that regard. And indeed, this is an energy for fast changes. This is the realm of the chart that has to do with your second life partner. If you're on your second marriage, there could be something transforming in the life of your husband or wife, your second life partner. Some change that's occurring. Also with your grandchildren, if you have grandchildren, there might be something that they are going through that is causing a great deal of quick, rapid change in their life. Some of these people might also be in accidents, or they might be fighting with you, or they might be very blunt and insensitive with you, and you're surprised and shocked at that. These are some of the scenarios of the 9th house, but I will point out the 9th house is considered to be the most blessed house in the horoscope. So more likely than not, it's the more positive expressions than these challenging expressions that come up. It's more likely that your grandchildren or your second life partner is about to have some change that liberates them, sets them free, cuts something they don't want out of their life, and helps them move down the path towards their purpose and their destiny. Much better option coming from the 9th house here. The 9th house is our beliefs. Many of you Virgo people will be changing your beliefs at this time. You know, you might have always believed that anybody who was a conspiracy theorist was totally off their nut, barking up the wrong tree, and you might suddenly experience some circumstance and you're like, hang on a minute, I think those conspiracy theorists were right. You know, a change in perspective, a change in worldview that can happen suddenly, almost instantaneously, through a realization or an epiphany, or an observation or an experience. So there's a shifting of beliefs, a shifting of your understanding of the world. There can be a real liberation through finding out the truth, finding out something that allows you to feel freer. You know, you find it's not necessarily a house of secrets and you're finding out secrets. It's usually likely to be stuff that's been out there circulating that you've known about, but suddenly the penny drops and you get it. You have a eureka, aha moment. Ah, that's the truth. Now it all makes sense. Now I'm understanding it. This is also the house that has to do with finding meaning for our sufferings and challenges. Well, Uranus conjunct conjunct Mars with Algol can indicate that if there has been some sort of suffering, you finally cut away all the cloudiness and the mistiness around why you've had to go through that, and you finally see, that has enlightened me, that's liberated me, that has caused me to grow. We all know that we grow through our challenges and being stretched, and you'll see the meaning for your sufferings at this time, cutting away any illusions, cutting away any deceptions around why you've had to live the life that you have. You can really expand your vision and your understanding through that kind of thing. This is a house of good karma, so don't be afraid. Like, yep, you'll finally understand things. Things will tend to make more sense. You'll get more clarity. And with that comes a feeling of the universe has my back. I know that the divine is watching over me, even when this is conjuncting the fixed star Algol. As we talked about with David, Algol is actually not the horrific star that we've been led to believe. She is all about transforming who we are and changing who we are. So that monster inside of you, you're going to see that monster. That monster is going to become clear to you, and you're going to be able to cut its head off, so to speak, and let the beauty emerge. Let the healing happen. Let the change occur. So this is the good karma. You get the full picture of what you've been dealing with your whole life. You get an understanding. You can see the behavioral patterns or the perspectives that you've had that have held you back and been sabotaging you. And you can set yourself free from that. You can liberate yourself now through an awareness and a knowledge and an understanding. That's the good karma. You know, there's no shame in moving through different learnings or states of awareness or consciousness. We're all doing that in some way or another. The good karma happens when we realize where we've been and we can see how much we've grown. That's a blessing. You know, we have evolved in this lifetime. We have progressed in this lifetime. We have expanded ourselves in this lifetime. And that's what this house is all about, expanding ourselves. I had a girlfriend who used to share with me that, life's all about moving our tent pegs out. Now, if you think about Arabia, where there's a lot, perhaps in ancient times, a lot of sheep herders and what have you, they lived in tents. And if you could make your tent bigger, it meant that you were being more prosperous, that you were, seeing life from a bigger perspective. And that's what we're here to do. Good karma is about pushing our tent pegs back and expanding our awareness, expanding our understanding, expanding our level of enlightenment. This is an energy that's going to surprise you and shock you with how it's going to expand your awareness. It's going to help you break free from whatever is holding you back from expanding those tent pegs and moving those tent pegs back. And it's going to bring a fast change to allow you to experience something bigger and more expansive. So blessing, I think, comes for our Virgo people with this combination, and that can be in almost any realm of life. If you are feeling more expansive as a soul, you tend to attract and magnetize to you more expansive, abundant experiences. So be blessed with good karma, my Virgo friends. Libra rising, Libra sun, Libra moon people. Hello, here we are with Uranus, conjunct Mars, conjunct with Algol at 26 degrees of Taurus in your 8th house. Hang on to your hats, Libra. This is going to be a week like nothing else. Why? Because it is so fast, you will be breathless. This energy is a quick energy for change, Mars-Uranus conjunction, and it's happening in the 8th house of rapid transformation. So don't lose your head like Medusa. Something is going to shift in your life. Something is going to change. I hope it's good for you, my beautiful Librans. Now, I just want to say that your sign, and there will be one or two other signs as well that I need to mention this to, need to be very, very careful around machinery, equipment, driving, guns or anything sharp. Please be careful around those sorts of things, because this is a house that has to do with accidents and crisis situations. So I just forewarn you about being careful. Also remember to manage your energy well through anything that regulates energy, yoga, tai chi, that kind of thing, and take time out. This is likely to be a very stressful transit for you, Libra, but not necessarily a bad transit, just overwhelming, you know? And when we feel overwhelmed with things, it's stressful. So make sure you have some time to, you know, curl up in front of the tally or curl up with a hot chocolate in front of the fire and just take some breathing space, whatever that looks like for you. So it's a house of crisis. It's a house of rapid, fast change. So don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. This is an energy where, you know, the 8th house is how we should ask for help. And when you've got Uranus and Mars conjunction here, don't be afraid to ask perhaps a builder or a young man, Mars energy, for help, or a real estate agent for help, depending on your circumstance. Mars rules all those things. Uranus is don't be afraid to ask somebody eccentric for help. You know, somebody a bit left of center, somebody who's a bit of a genius or a very unusual thinker, can be Mars. This is the realm of the chart telling us how we should approach others for assistance, because it's the house in the chart that has to do with what we receive from others. And so therefore it has to do with how we should ask others for support and the kinds of people we should ask for support. What kind of support? Moral support, emotional support, physical support, financial, material support. It's also a house of inheritances, wills, and windfalls and payouts. Now, there's a couple of ways this could manifest for Libran people. You might suddenly receive the shock of your life getting a phone call from the lottery saying you've won. Hello, sudden shocks, sudden surprises that turn your life around and get you right out of a rut. 8th house energy is here with that. It could also be somebody cutting you out of a will or an inheritance. Somebody who's finally, you've pushed them so far and that's it, end of the line. Remember, this energy, Libra, is a forceful energy, an aggressive energy. It's very intense, it's explosive, it's rash and impulsive, and this is the house of inheritances. You know, you didn't come round for Sunday lunch and mum's totally pissed at you, so she rings up the lawyer on Monday, says, cut them out of the will, you know, that kind of thing. I hope that doesn't happen, Libra, but this is a rash and impulsive energy, spontaneous. You know, something could happen that could cause that to be for some of you watching this. It is a house of healing, and Mars represents needles. So for some of you, it could look like a surgery that needs to take place to heal this week. For others of you, it could be that you're, you know, going and getting an acupuncture treatment, and that would be a really healthy thing to do with this energy, actually. It's using this energy for the best. Remember, I said to regulate the flow of energy as best you can. Acupuncture on our meridian points allows that to happen. This is a very helpful energy for that sort of thing. It's also an energy that's very connected to the mystical, to shamans, to you know, people who deal with chakra energy, Reiki, psychology, astrology. And so Uranus is connected to all those things as well. You might find that those sorts of healers in your life are just acting a little bit more Mars-like. You know, maybe they're a little bit short with you, or blunt with you, or aggressive with you in ways that they usually aren't. So this energy, don't be surprised if you see these people sort of acting a bit unusually, a bit rashly, a bit impulsively in a manner that they wouldn't usually. This is also an energy, as I said earlier, of sudden shocks, fast changes, as I said, dramatic reversals in life. Talk about getting out of a rut. The good news is, Libra, and I'm a Libran moon, so I hope this is the case for me as well. If you've been feeling stuck, if you've been feeling like nothing ever changes and how much longer do I have to put up with this cold Victorian winter or whatever it happens to be, along comes this combination of energies in your 8th house, and you cut that right out of your life so quickly, so fast that you're left reeling, you know. Dramatic reversals and getting out of a rut are doubly emphasized in the 8th house. So, you know, something happens and you're like, you cut that cold Victorian winter out of your life like Medusa's head being cut off, and it never comes back again. you're out, you go and find a nice warm place to live, and the beauty of Andromeda arrives, you know. Oh dear Lord, let that be. But that's the kind of thing that we can see happening in the positive. Some sort of massive dramatic reversal where you're cutting the old Gorgon out of your life so rapidly, so fast, and in comes the beautiful manifestation out of that circumstance. So the transformation, double whammy energy of transformation, double whammy energy of getting out of a rut, double whammy energy for dramatic life reversals. The combination is huge, huge, my Libra friends. Uranus, sudden change and liberation. Mars, to cut something out of your life and make, when it's with Uranus, make some impactful life change. Medusa head being cut off, cut that old stuff out and let the new Andromeda arrive. And of course, here in the 8th house, which is all about transformation, healing, and fast, rapid change. I think Librans, you know, like, sit tight, guys. This is going to be a big week in your life. Deep breaths. You'll get there, and it could be the best thing that's ever happened for you. Renewal, rebirth, renovation, reactivation. I'm just going to conclude, Libra, by saying this is a very sexual position as well. Sexual position, hello, haha. But very sexual energy. And usually something a bit erratic, left of center, a bit kinky in the house of your sexual expression. So, you know, if you're in a healthy place to experiment with that sort of thing, this is a very experimentative kind of energy in that regard, alternative kind of energy in that regard. Enjoy that. But you might, some of you who may not be in a partnership might get an opportunity for a sexual interaction that could be very unusual, bit unexpected, bit shocking, bit surprising as well. Just do be careful. I'll just, you know, I like to forearm my followers about this sort of thing. You know, it's a surprising energy, it's a shocking energy, it's a liberating energy, but it can also be a forceful and aggressive energy, like the volcano. Something you think everything's okay, and then something wild and unexpected happens. So my advice about that, take it or leave it, would be if you are a single person, be very careful about who you have an intimate liaison with in the coming week or so. Make sure, if you do want to go down that road, that it's somebody that you trust, somebody that you know, somebody that you're not going to be left reeling and shocked and, you know, horrified by. Okay, enough on that topic. I do hope all you Librans enjoy the intensity that this holds for you, and that can be intensity around spiritual understanding, mystical experiences as well, you know, deep knowledge that comes to you. There's like aha, epiphany energy that comes with this, and that's my hope, that you will receive some level of enlightenment that's just off the Richter scale for you, my beautiful Librans. Scorpio rising, Scorpio sun, Scorpio moon people, energy of Uranus conjunct Mars. It's happening in the house of partnership. Now, I was talking to Taurus people when I began this reading and saying, you want to be careful, Taurus, because you're likely to be a bit rash, a bit impulsive, a bit explosive, a bit rebellious to other people in your life. Well, Scorpio, it's the reverse for you. Other people are going to be very rash, blunt, intense, explosive with you. They might be forceful, they might be aggressive. Now, this can be any other person. It could be an intimate other person. It could be a business partner. It could be a client. But just forewarn, this is a rather challenging energy when it's happening in the house of others, other people in our lives. If you are partnered in any way, you know, you've got your tennis partner that you play tennis with every weekend, or maybe you're married, maybe you've got a business partner, whatever partnerships that you have going on in your life, this energy, Scorpio, can indicate that partner might be a little bit more accident prone this week. So, you know, be there for them if something happens. Try and, you know, encourage them not to go driving down the freeway like they're on the Formula One racetrack. You know, be the best support you can be to guide them into sort of safe activities and to regulate the flow of energy so that they're not erratic, they're not restless and agitated where you can. I mean, everybody has responsibility over their own life, but if you can offer some support or words of wisdom, then do so. You might find that a partner in your life is now cutting something out of their life. This is Mars energy. Mars energy is to cut. Uranus is to liberate. And Algol is to remove something out of your life, like Algol lost her head. So for our Scorpio people, you might notice your partner's cutting, could be you, they're cutting out of their life. Or it could be something else. Maybe they're cutting out a self-sabotaging behavior. Maybe they're cutting out friends that don't serve them. Maybe they're cutting out bosses that are bringing them down, or whatever. It could be anything, but you might notice that a partner in your life, some kind of partner, any kind of partner, is liberating themselves in some way by cutting something, removing something, just surgically getting it out of their life in some manner. So that's quite an interesting way that this energy might express. This is also, Scorpio, the house of the law of attraction. This is telling us the kinds of people you're going to be attracting into your life this week, and they're likely to be very Mars-Uranus conjunction. They're likely to be very stimulating, enlivening, invigorating kinds of people. Some people who sort of get the juices flowing, they get the mind thinking or the heart fluttering, that kind of thing. If you do get the heart fluttering kind of person, it may not last very long. Mars-Uranus conjunction is very quick energy, surprising, shocking, but over and done, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, very, very quickly. But quite a liberating person that you might attract into your life. On the shadow side, it could be somebody who's a bit more forceful, some people who are aggressive, some people who are a bit out of control or erratic in some way, spontaneous people, rash and impulsive people. You might be encountering those sorts of people in your life. This is also the house that's about fairness and justice, and we talked about this with David. We were talking about the unfairness of Algol's circumstance, or rather Medusa's circumstance, and all that meant. And so here, if there is an area of your life that is imbalanced, where there's been a lack of fairness or a lack of justice, Scorpio, you might be about to transform that under this energy. You might be just about to cut out any imbalance, any unfairness, and change everything. Allow the Andromeda energy, the beautiful energy, to emerge now that old Medusa energy is gone. So that's one thing that I am seeing with this combination that might happen for you. More balance might come into your life because you're getting rid of something that is causing imbalance, be it a person, be it a circumstance, a place of living, anything. Now, this is a house of agreements, contracts, alliances, commitments, promises, vows. I would suggest it's not a good time, if you can avoid it, for signing those things. And the reason is that there's such an erratic energy. You sign a contract to buy a house or something, and then 2 weeks later something goes wrong. There's an accident that happens at that house, and you're like, my God, I don't want this house anymore. Let's cut that contract to bits. Mars is to cut. So be very careful about what you sign up for contractually at this time, because this energy is so erratic and so volatile. It can be rather negative, and you might end up deciding to cut that agreement to shreds and get rid of it and cut it out of your life. If not right away, it could be down the track, and you might be regretting ever having got on board with that contract, and you just want to cut it out of your life. So it's not a good time, I would suggest, for vows and promises and treaties that are of a contractual nature. This is the realm of the chart that tells us about how we should be acting in business dealings. Now, this is a different circumstance. This is not the contracts. This is business negotiations, So being a little bit Mars-Uranus is a good thing in business negotiations this week. Being a little bit aggressive, being a little bit competitive, being a little bit forceful can actually serve you well in a business deal. You know, you're not going to stand for somebody stomping all over your toes or, you know, giving you a dodgy deal. You're going to stand up for yourself. This is an assertive energy. So, you know, yep, you might be a bit explosive, a bit rash, a bit impulsive, but ultimately this energy in a business negotiation, not a contract, but a negotiation, can actually pay dividends. Okay? So that's what I'm feeling for this energy. This is also the 10th house from the 10th, so it relates to the experts that we need to hire in our life. And Scorpio, if you're looking at hiring anyone, like a builder or a lawyer, you know, and some expert witness for something, this is an energy, this energy, like a real estate agent, would be very much represented by this combination. I feel that it would serve you well, Scorpio, to hire somebody who is perhaps a little bit Mars-Uranus conjunction. A bit impulsive, a bit, you know, stimulating to be around, like big conversationalist perhaps, or very invigorating energy, you know, that sort of thing. If you're with somebody like that, they're going to be a good person to hire. Mars-Uranus conjunction is in the 7th house is telling us about the kind of specialist you might like to hire. Some of you might be looking at hiring a real estate agent or a military person, somebody with a military background perhaps as well. You might be looking to hire someone who's an engineer, somebody who's quite expert in machinery, somebody who is somebody who's good with tools and implements. That could be a gardener, that could be a machinist of some description, a sewer, somebody who uses a sewing machine. You might be hiring someone with Mars qualities and expertise. Mars is also a strategist, and if you're hiring anybody to help you strategically work out certain areas of your life, it can prove very liberating for you at this time, Scorpio. So that's what I'm saying for my beautiful Scorpio friends. What about Sagittarius? Sagittarius rising, sun or moon people. Sagittarius who loves to go for a walk. Mars-Uranus conjunction is occurring in the 6th house. Now, I think Sagittarius, that of all the signs, this one is the most blessed for you. You are going to be the most blessed this week. And the reason is this is the house of problems, difficulties, imbalance, things that are, you know, where we struggle and why we struggle is seen through the 6th house. Adversity and conflict are 6th house energies. It's, to my mind, one of the most difficult houses in the horoscope. And what's going on here? Mars-Uranus conjunction with Algol. You're going to cut out these things out of your life. Sagittarius, it's time to say goodbye to adversity. It's time to say goodbye to struggle. It's time to say goodbye to conflict. Mars-Uranus wants to cut that shit out of your life, and Medusa's cutting the head, you know, the Algol is cutting the head right off so that the Andromeda energy can now be born. This will probably happen through some sort of surprise, something a bit shocking. You didn't imagine it would, you know, work out quite like it did. There's certainly an energy of breaking free from the 6th house difficulties and challenges here. Now, that's a good thing, obviously, but Mars in the 6th house is in one of its best positions. When Mars is in the 6th house, it's actually a great place for Mars to be because it gives the willpower and the assertiveness and the drive to change those challenging circumstances of life. So great to see Mars here for a start. Great to see it with Uranus, allowing you to liberate yourself from your problems, your debts, your lack of education, your lack of a job, those sorts of 6th house problems that we encounter. So, and the change will be fast. The change could come out of the blue, a surprise all of a sudden. Now, that doesn't mean that, well, it can mean that some enemies are being cut out of your life, but it could indicate that you might see the aggressors in your life being more aggressive, more forceful, more rash, more impulsive, more explosive and difficult. You know, you haven't I don't know, talked to your ex-wife for years and years, and all of a sudden she rings you up out of the blue and she's explosive and she's angry about something, and you know, there's a lot of impulsive, insensitive dialogue that happens. You know, that could be an energy that we see with this. Whoever we consider to be an enemy in our life or a frustrating factor in our life might be a bit more on the nose, shall we say. But what's going to happen out of this is that those enemies will be able to be cut out of our lives, removed, so that we can feel more liberated. Uranus-Mars conjunction. This is going to help you get back in touch with what your heart truly wants and where your heart truly is. So, you know, by removing enemies and people who are troublemakers out of our life, we kind of know ourselves better. Yeah, I should never have got together with that person. I know what I really want now. Or I shouldn't have tried to be that person's friend at work. I regret doing that, but now I'll never fall for that again. You know, we get more in tune and in line with who we are and what we really do want because of this. So definitely removing some problem from our life is what this is all about, Sagittarius. I'm so pleased to tell you. Okay, so we can fix problems in our life through hard work. That's what this is all about too. So if you're, in a difficult life circumstance and a struggle and what have you, hard work is what can resolve that. Hard work is a 6th house energy, and Mars is to be an energetic. You know, go for it. Initiate some form of hard work. Mars, get in there, work hard, and you can change the whole nature of your life. The conditions and nature of our workplace are seen here too. Some of you, if you're in some sort of day job where you're working for someone else, you're an employee, some of you might be finding that your workplace is a little bit volatile this week, a little bit erratic. The energy is unpredictable and a bit all over the place, you know, bit rash and impulsive. So just note that your workplace can be that way, and if it is, you'll know why, and that can help you navigate it. The digestive system, I have to say, is also seen through the 6th house, and we know that the digestive system has such an impact on every facet of who we are. In fact, it's considered to be the second brain. I would go easy on any hot, spicy, fiery type foods this week, because they're likely to cause surprising, unexpected results with your digestive system. Mars, Uranus kind of energy. You certainly don't want to instigate surgery as a result of what you're eating because of this energy. And remember, we need to be very careful of anything that causes that can cause more stress than usual. So try and eat clean, try and eat light as much as you can, plenty of fluids to douse that fire in the belly, and like with the digestive system I'm talking about here. Try and avoid the hot spices and all that kind of stuff if you can, just for the week. I would also suggest get physically active and busy. This is a very kind of busy energy, albeit an erratic energy. If you're busy cleaning your house and cupboards, then you are going to feel like life's getting back on track and more balanced. So Sagittarius, if you need to clean out your cupboards, clean up your desk, do a spring clean of something, this is the week for it. It's going to help you feel lighter and more liberated and more balanced to get organized now. This is a house of service, how we can serve. And through serving other people, you know, helping, healing, fixing, resolving issues in the lives of others, not only our own life, but in the lives of others, that's how we burn our karmic debts, according to karmic astrology. So you might get a sudden, surprising opportunity to serve or help or heal in the life of another person. Take it. It's going to help liberate you from karma. Bad karma. It's going to help break you free of that rut. So keep your eyes peeled for how can you serve, how can you help, how can you heal, how can you fix. I can also, you might get a spontaneous impulse to do some act of benevolence or kindness or, you know, service to somebody else, and listen to those impulses. Don't squash them down. Don't deny them. Those impulses are very stimulating and enlivening when they come, and they are part of the soul, you know, crying for us to resolve karma and release karma out of our life. So that's what I'm seeing for our Saggy friends. Quite an exciting and positive energy for a change, I'm pleased to say. Capricorn rising, sun or moon people. Hello, Mars conjunct Uranus in your 5th house with Algol on the 15th or the 16th of July, depending on where you are in the world. What does this mean for you? Well, this is happening in the 5th house, the house of fun. It represents places of fun as well, parties, clubs, restaurants, all that sort of thing. But this energy is all about removing something out of your life. You might have, booked a restaurant to go and, have a special dinner with some friends, and this energy forms, and suddenly you've got to cut that energy, that fun time you had planned out of your life. Maybe someone gets sick and another person can't make it for another reason, and so you've got to cut that event, cut that fun out of your life. So not exactly the most positive manifestation in that regard. Don't worry, there's going to be some other good things that could manifest for you, Capricorn, instead. Be sure not to lose your head in frustration if you need to change some sort of fun event or activity that you might have been wanting to undertake. One thing that this energy does represent is about getting in touch with what our heart truly wants. It can be, from that perspective, a very stimulating and enlivening and invigorating energy. And so through feeling excited and also through removing anything that is stopping you from feeling liberated, Capricorn, you might find that you get back in touch with your childlike heart. This house in the horoscope has to do with our childlike heart. What makes us happy to be alive? What makes us, feel a level of joy and exhilaration? And so there might be some sort of stimulating occurrence or stimulating event that helps you understand what your heart truly wants and what your childlike self needs. So we need a fairly high degree of consciousness to understand that. So if you're a highly conscious person watching this, you'll know, okay, I can recognize in myself that I long for this particular emotion or this particular experience, and I'm feeling that stirring up within me. I long for just the ability to have some time to sit in the sun like I did as a kid and just watch the little insects crawl around on the footpath, and I just long to get back to that state of being again, for example. And there might be something that happens in your life this week where you choose to take an afternoon off work and just sit in the sunshine out on the concrete, watching the little lizards run around and ants and what have you, and just get back in touch with your childlike self, your childlike heart. So something happens to invigorate and enliven you and get back in touch with your childlike self. This is a house that has to do with self-expression, and it's very likely, Capricorn, you mightn't be this way all the time. Capricorn people can be sort of a bit more reticent to express themselves, but in this combination happening in the 5th house of self-expression, you're likely to be quite fiery in how you are expressing. Remember, this energy correlates to volcanoes and earthquakes on Earth, in Earth events. So you might be expressing yourself in some sort of impulsive way, explosive way, spontaneous way. It might feel like you even are a little bit out of control. Your level of aggression or forcefulness is really quite high at the time, even if it's not usually. So don't be surprised if you feel that way and you respond energetically that way. It's just the energy of Mars-Uranus conjunction here. Now, equally, this is a house of children. So some of you might be seeing your children behaving in rash, impulsive, unpredictable ways. And if that's the case, be gracious, be patient, because this is the energy that they are, especially your eldest child, is likely to be experiencing. Try and guide them into activities that are not dangerous if you can, because this is quite an accident-forming energy. So keep them away from anything sharp or any fire and that kind of thing, and try to help them to regulate the flow of energy in their life. Maybe do some yoga with them, or some Tai Chi, or some martial arts, martial arts. These things might be helpful for your children to get involved in under this influence this week. Now, this is also, Capricorn, the house of gambling and taking risks. I wouldn't suggest that gambling is a good thing to do under this energy, actually. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But taking risks, if they're calculated, if you take time to sift through all the implications of a risk you're going to take, this is not a bad energy for taking risks. It's just that under this influence, we're more likely to jump in, boots and all, before we've actually thought out the consequences of the risk we're going to take. So I just want to encourage you not to not take a risk, Capricorn, but to slow down, think things through, and evaluate all potential outcomes before you dive in the deep end, so to speak. This, I must say, and this might come as a surprise to some of you Capricorn people, but the fifth house is actually the 8th house from the 10th, which means there can be significant changes, shocks and upheaval in career this week. This energy is all about sudden reversals in career, and with Mars Uranus here, it can be liberation from a career that felt like a burden, from a career that felt like it was suffocating, like you were stuck in a rut with whatever career it happens to have been. So this energy is going to cut that old stale career out of your life in order to allow, like cut the Medusa head off, in order to allow the Andromeda energy to blossom and be born. Mars wants to cut it. Uranus wants to liberate. So this could happen in quite a surprising way, maybe through some event that occurs in your life, Capricorn, or some impulse that you get, some fast change that might happen in your workplace, and all of a sudden you're breaking free from a difficult career situation through some mechanism that you never even imagined would happen. So very strong energy for that in this placement of the chart. So yeah, we're removing some career element out of our life. Don't lose your head. Don't worry. The Andromeda energy can be born, and the universe can absolutely transform your career here. Remember, the 5th house is a lucky house, so any transformation that comes, any sudden shock or any getting out of a rut energy can usually allow you to land on your feet. You can get lucky. Let's say you lose your job one day, the next day you're offered a job with a higher paying salary and closer to home, doing something that you love even more. Boom, you land on your feet. So sudden reversals that are generally positive in career are seen through the 5th house. Do be careful though, this realm of the chart has to do with back, spine and heart issues. And Capricorn, with Uranus conjunct Mars, there might be a bit of an energy here of maybe a need to, I would say, have an operation, cut, in order to help an issue like that. If you've probably had it ongoing already in your life. Heart issue might require some kind of surgery or something like that. Yeah, so definitely if you have had ongoing issues in that regard, that might be exacerbated this week. Burnout is often a result of not having enough joy and happiness in life. Too many stresses, too many duties, too many responsibilities. That's what causes burnout. Let's face it, let's be real. Not having enough joy, not having enough happiness. And certainly this is the house of joy and happiness. Uranus conjunct Mars here. Capricorn can say, if you haven't been having enough joy and happiness in life, we're cutting out all the reasons why. We're getting rid of that because you've got to start having more joy and more happiness in life. And that's what this energy is all about, cutting out the old that doesn't serve you so that you can allow in what is meant to be happening, which is more joy and more happiness. So I do feel that for some Capricorn people, you're cutting out of your life, you're liberating yourself from too much stress, too much overwork, too much dissatisfaction in life that is holding back your joy. You've got to start making space for joy. You've got to start making space for what brings you happiness. And that could be anything. It could be a hobby. It could be more love in your life. It could be gardening. It could be enjoying your children more, being present in their life more, whatever gives you joy and happiness. Mars, Uranus is going to liberate you from what is no longer serving you, and not allowing that happiness and joy in your life. You're going to cut it out now so that you have space for that. Thank you, Capricorn. Moving along, Aquarius rising, Aquarius sun, and Aquarius moon people. Well, hello guys. You are having the conjunction of Mars and Uranus with Algol in Taurus, your 4th house. This is where you might get some sort of surprise or shock happen, maybe in the home. Now this could be something of the negative variety. This is one of those energies that has shadow side and also light side. So let's talk a bit about shadow side. You might get home and find that some electrical equipment has malfunctioned. Uranus is electricity. Mars is not necessarily appliances, but it's sharp implements in the home. Don't go sticking a knife into the toaster for God's sake this week. It's likely to give you literally an unwanted shock and surprise. So please don't do that. Please be very careful about that sort of thing. Anything to do with implements, electricity, sharp things in the home. Be very, very careful this week. There might be something surprising, like maybe you've got a fireplace, or maybe you have some old pistols hanging over the mantelpiece or something like that. Mars rules those things. There could be something surprising and shocking that happens with those things. You might go out to use your shovel, which is a sharp implement, it's Mars ruled. You might go out to use your shovel in your garden and you start digging and the handle snaps. What a surprise, what a shock. Now you can't finish that vegetable patch, This is the kind of thing we're talking about. Surprises, shocks, accidents. Be careful in your home this week, my beautiful Aquarius people. Now, by the same token, there is a positive expression of this energy. You might find if you felt stuck with your place of living or the nature of your domestic life, that this energy allows you to break free. It allows you to find a new place to live. It allows you to change how your home routine is operating, and helps you to feel lighter, freer, liberated. Uranus energy is to liberate. So there's definitely a cutting out and a changing and a transformation of a home space or a lifestyle, in a domestic environment that is going to shift under this energy this week. In fact, this energy is all about removing anything that does not allow for your liberation in the home. Okay. Another good thing about this energy is that there can be some stimulating and enlivening and invigorating of your true core, your heart, what makes you happy, because this is an energy about getting in touch with what our heart really wants and cutting out what is not what our heart really wants, removing something from our life. And this house is all about the life foundation, your emotional core strength. And so you might be removing emotions out of your life, or causes of problematic emotions out of your life. Hidden motivations can go through big change, fast change, shocking change through something that occurs. How comfortable we are is seen through the 4th house as well. How comfortable we are in life. And this is certainly not a comfortable energy. So get prepared, Aquarius, to feel uncomfortable at an emotional level this week. But the result is going to be liberation. So there's likely to be something that makes you emotionally uncomfortable, takes you out of your comfort zone, and it's going to shift and stir up your sense of what is stability, what is security, what is safety, and change things around radically. But it's I think all for the best. Remember the story of Medusa. She goes from being the gargoyle to becoming the Medusa, becoming the Andromeda figure. So this shake-up, this cutting out energy, cutting out problems, cutting out emotional issues, even cutting out a mother or a maternal figure might even happen for some, which is a 4th house energy. Cutting out the roots, like where you come from, cutting out the community that you grew up in some way. For some people that might be necessary. In doing that, you might find that you come back into yourself, your true self, and find a sense of understanding. But of course that can cause tremendous upheaval emotionally to do those things. So that can be another manifestation of this rather volatile and erratic energy. The 4th house also has to do with people who live in the same household as yourself, whether that's people who rent with you or actual family blood ties. It's people in the same household. You might notice that people in your household are acting particularly erratic, wild, crazy, spontaneous. Maybe they're being a bit rash and impulsive and explosive this week. You'll know why with this energy. People in your household acting like Mars-Uranus conjunction. Mars also rules real estate agents. You might get a surprise and unexpected visit from a real estate agent this week. Maybe they knock on your door saying, do you want your house appraised? We'll tell you what it's worth. That kind of thing can happen. That might be how this manifests. Real estate agents coming to your house. Land and property is ruled by the 4th house as well. If you are a farmer and you grow crops, this is a combination that can indicate that there might be something unexpected happen with your crop, with your orchard, with your herd or your livestock this week. There's how we utilize the land, and agriculture and farming are seen through the 4th house. So if you are in those fields, there could be something surprising and unexpected that crops up that you have to deal with, negative or positive as well. It's also, the 4th house is the house of inherited family businesses that we run from home as well. There could be something unexpected that occurs with a home-based business or an inherited family business, something that, you didn't see coming, some sort of shock that occurs in that way, and a fast change. Maybe, 1 week that you brought in more money than you've ever seen, the next week you didn't get a single sale. Like rapid change, fast change regarding a home-based business or a family business. Erratic energy is what's represented here. So don't be surprised at whatever happens. Roll with it as much as you're able to. What else can I tell you about this energy? Well, it has to do with how we love. Closeness and togetherness are seen through the 4th house. And Aquarius, things could be quite erratic. Love might be expressed in very unusual, blunt ways. As I said, try and roll with it. But how we love is going to be sort of a bit all over the shop, One moment you're getting some affection and cuddles in the kitchen. The next moment somebody's exploding at you saying, why didn't you vacuum your bedroom? And it's like, can't win, Could be a bit erratic, a bit wild, a bit crazy with the people that you love, and the expressions of love can be a bit erratic and sort of up and down under this energy as well. The final thing I want to mention with this placement is that this house represents the external blockages that we have to attaining success in our life. And Aquarius, the good news is you might be cutting out any external blockages that you have to success. So remember, Mars is to cut, Uranus is liberation, Medusa had her head removed. You might, you might be losing your head a little bit, but there is certainly an energy of cutting out whatever is present in your life that is stopping you from being successful, any external blockages. So that's what I'm saying for our Aquarius rising, sun or moon people. Pisces rising, sun or moon people, we guys are having the conjunction of Mars and Uranus in our 3rd house. And this is where something shocking or surprising could occur. This is happening on the 15th or the 16th of July, depending where you are in the world. And of course, this is the house of receiving news, receiving communications, receiving information. Pisces, you might get something that absolutely blows your socks off this week, something that shocks you completely, that comes in the form of an email or a letter or a parcel in the post. So communications can be quite shocking. It's also possible that the news contained in that information that you receive can help you break free, help you liberate yourself and get yourself out of a rut, Pisces, where you've been feeling stuck, where you've been feeling restless, where you've been feeling agitated, can go through a very fast change as well. But it is an erratic energy, so you might be getting all sorts of crazy emails one day, and the next day it's tumbleweed city and there's none. Like big energy of maybe social media activity one day, and then nothing the next day. So erratic energy when it comes to communications, social media, marketing, advertising. You can have a massive amount of success with an advertising campaign one day and then nothing the next day. That really volatile, changeable, explosive one day, and then, you know, the volcano's silent the next day energy. You might also, when it comes to running a small business or hosting a workshop situation, Pisces, you might be feeling a bit aggressive with the people involved in the workshop or with the people you're encountering as you run your small business. You might be encountering people in your small business that are a bit explosive and rebellious, or people in your workshop that are impulsive or rash, blunt and insensitive. Okay, if you encounter that, you'll know why and where it's coming from as well. This is the realm of the chart that has to do with movement and short localized trips. So it can represent something suddenly cropping up and you have to take a quick trip to New South Wales or a quick trip to your capital city or something. There can be something that occurs that causes you to need to take a very quick, fast, unexpected trip. This is also the realm of the chart that has to do with relatives, neighbors, and siblings. Some of you might be thinking about cutting those people out of your life. I'm sick of my grumpy neighbors and the way they dump their trash all over my nature strip. That's it. I'm going to take action. Mars is to take action. I'm going to liberate myself. Uranus, I'm reporting them to council. So we try and cut a problem neighbor, relative, sibling out of our life. The people who we don't actually have a choice about being in our life, we do something to cut them out in some way. This is also an energy of transactions and dealing with tradespeople. You might have a bit of a blunt interaction with business arrangement or a tradesperson as well with this energy. Try not to lose your head. Try not to lose your head. I know dealing with tradies can sometimes be just, you know, hair pulling out-ish. You just can't help it. What else can I say about the third house, Pisces? This is the house of self-made wealth through your own skills and abilities. So very much if you're running your own business, this is you. And this is telling us how we can make money through the running of our own small business, through the utilizing of our own skill sets. And Mars Uranus here is very much an initiatory energy. It is taking action. It's being spontaneous. It's being explorative, you know, wants to get in there and do something and make change. So what I'm seeing here is if you're feeling inclined to make a change with your business that you run, listen to that impulse this week, because it's likely to be coming from the divine to guide you towards some sort of change that's going to make you more money, Pisces. So let's say you get inspired to change your advertising campaign. Listen to that. You might be cutting out an old advertising campaign in order to implement something new. It's likely to have more success the newly implemented advertising campaign. First, you've got to get rid of the old one. Also, if you're traveling, can I just say, be very careful. This energy is like the third house is to take trips and to travel on trains, on buses and cars and bikes and all sorts of things that we travel on. And this energy is one that is a bit accident prone, so be very careful on any short trip or taking any public transport or bike riding or anything like that. You'll also likely, this is an energy for being more stressed than usual, and in the case of Pisces people, it might be mental stress. This is the house of our mental narrative and what we think about and how we think, and our thinking can be colorized by a lot volatility, erraticism, high levels of stress this week. So whatever you need to do to calm the mind this week, Pisces, do so. You know, whether that's reading some poetry by the fire one night just to sort of get into some mental rhythm and or whether it's meditating, or whether it's doing some sort of yoga with a focused mental direction. These sorts of things are good for you to utilize this week, and anything like them, because it's the mental narrative that can be very stressed and anxious. I would suggest also, so be very careful about that as well, Pisces. And that's about all that's coming to me for our Pisces rising sun and moon people. Moving on to Aries. Aries rising sun and moon people, thank you for sticking with me to the end, Aries. This energy of Mars-Uranus conjunction is occurring in the second house. This energy is very much about liberation here in the house of finances. It's talking about being liberated, not necessarily from debts. Debts are seen from the 12th house, but more liberated from maybe material burdens, like it could be, I've just got, 4 cars in the garage and it's only me. I think I need to liberate myself from too much stuff. I'm going to sell those 3 cars and just keep 1. That kind of thing. That's what we're looking at. If there's just materially too much in your life, too much overwhelm, you haven't got enough storage space for everything that you need, that kind of thing, this energy is going to help you get rid of it. Say, just cut off spontaneously. That's it. I'm taking it to the Salvation Army, or St. Vincent de Paul, or whatever op shop, or thrift store is in your area. That's it. I'm getting rid of all my crap. So it's really an energy for liberating yourself from material dominance, and that can be a very powerful and helpful thing as well. But it's likely to come in very spontaneously. You probably don't see it coming, and all of a sudden you'll be like, that's it, I'm throwing out all my black dresses or whatever. This is the house of anything that we consider to be valuable. Now, Mars-Uranus conjunction might indicate that you are valuing things like needles, machinery, guns, valuing Mars-Uranus things. Could be valuing real estate, alternative real estate, like odd real estate, very futuristic real estate. Mars is real estate, Uranus is anything futuristic and gadget driven. You might be valuing that sort of thing and really be drawn to those sorts of things. You might want to collect something that's very Mars-Uranus this week. That could be, decide spontaneously that you want to collect swords or dueling pistols, or something to do with fire perhaps as well, maybe incense sticks or candles or something. Like Mars is anything to do with fire, so you might be collecting those sorts of things. Self-worth and self-value are seen through this house of the horoscope, and Mars-Uranus being so erratic, so full of agitation and restlessness, can see that affect your sense of value, your sense of worth. One day you're feeling like you're the king of the world, like Leonardo on the boat. The next day Rose won't get off the door to let you on and you're agitated, This is shifting in your value, One day you're king of the world and the next day you can't tell her to make room on the door for you because you're perhaps not valuing yourself enough and your life enough. But you get what I'm trying to say. Our sense of self-worth and self-value goes through a lot of erratic ups and downs, roller coaster events, because of this combination. I just encourage you not to lose your head. Keep your perspective about who you are. Know that you are beautiful, Aries. Know that you are worthy. This is that beautiful Andromeda energy emerging. Keep your sense of self. Keep your sense of honor, no matter how up and down you might feel or how erratic your emotions are this week. This is the house connected to financial institutions. Some of you Aries people might find that if you're involved with a financial institution of some sort, it's going through a roller coaster ride. It's up and down. You're like, should I keep my money in there or not? Should I pull it out and invest in gold? What should I do? It can be just a wild ride. What to do about that? Well, I'd have to have a look at your personal chart to give any kind of indication or advice, but my suggestion would be, unless indications are very strong that it's going to collapse, I'd just sit tight and see what happens. But I'm not a financial astrologer. That's not my specialty, so take what I share in that regard with a grain of salt, and I just absolve myself from any financial responsibility for your decision making. I say share this information as a perspective only, and what you do with this information is entirely up to you. Mars, Uranus, it's a house here in the second house of our attitude towards our money. Okay, so not only is it our money, is it our material things, it's our attitude towards these things too. And this combination is very much an energy for liberation. You're going to want to remove anything that is keeping you feeling financially liberated. You know, cut out those bills, cut out those obligations, cut out those things that are holding you back from financial stability and security, Aries. And this Mars-Uranus conjunction can actually be quite a great help with doing that. It's going to help you get in touch with what your heart really wants. But first, something needs to be removed in order for that liberation to occur and to happen. You might also be removing any sort of material ambitions and desires that are no longer serving you. Maybe you were always wanted to save up and have a Lamborghini in the driveway, and you realized, you know, that's actually not very liberating because I'm putting all my money in my savings account and I'm living on dog food trying to save up for this Lamborghini. I think I need to get rid of that unsuitable aspiration, financial, material aspiration, and replace it with something a bit more fresh and more appropriate. So Uranus-Mars conjunction can help liberate you from inappropriate material ambitions that are actually not serving you well also. So that's what I'm feeling into for everybody with this rather amazing transit once every 2 years, but it's probably not going to be occurring on this point again for, you know, another 84 years. So this is a rare opportunity to cut something out of your life, to set yourself free and liberate something really rapidly and break you free from something quite spectacularly. So my friends, be blessed this week, whatever comes, and I'll catch you with next week's Astro Weather Report next week.